Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second edition of our brand new show, BMW Ignition. My name is Matt Trivet. I'll be the host, and for those of you who joined us in the first round, you'll kind of know what it's all about. But this show is designed to cover everything that is BMW sim racing and BMW esports. As we're now into 2022 as well, this show, we've got lots to talk about, particularly within sim racing. We've already had the virtual 24-hour of Le Mans, as well as the first round of this series, the BMW SIM GT Cup. And there's one thing that's very consistent among all of that. Today's show is going to be all about Team Redline, as they've had such a dominant start to this season. And we're going to talk to both the drivers of the winning car in GTE at the Le Mans race, as well as Atze Kerkhof, who's team manager, as well as driver, as well as kind of everything really, with the team, and pick his brain on what makes them so successful. Before all of that, though, we need to look back at what an incredible first round we had for BMW SIM GT Cup. And we're going to take a look at those highlights right now.
We are racing in the 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup. That's Nathan Lewis, who runs himself deep into the corner as he tries to challenge Sebastian Schmallenbeck in the number 9 Urano car. Nathan Lewis has gone off the track as he tries to shortcut, stack up three abreast. Three abreast, RAG, Hugh Barter into the grass. He'll be squeezed and pinched to the inside if he can't hold that, surely. And he cannot without carnage. Hearth, I think, got into Kova and Tumas Tatala. And who was that? Then watch here. Kova and Hearth. Barter does force Hearth wide, but after initial contact was made, and look at that carnage. Bennett can do nothing but watch as Vecchio pops himself to the outside line. They almost door themselves, coming down to the start-finish line, but for the third year in a row, Gianni Vecchio wins at Daytona to kick off BMW Virtual Motorsport and lock in 25 championship points for him and for his teammates Chris Lullen's hopes of making it to BMW Sim Live.
An incredible start to the season that it was. A lovely 1-2 for Team Redline. Remember, different championship standings this year as well. The drivers score the points, not the car, and it's a championship rather than just a qualifying round. In other words, last year, you had to win a race. You were guaranteed to go to BMW Sim Live at the end of the year. This time, it is a full season, so lots more to play for. But of course, Redline, yeah, great win, and no doubt a favorite for today. They, along with BS Competition and G2 Esports, are one of the 3 partnered teams with BMW. And aside from the official BMW races, where obviously everyone is working with BMW, they fly the flag for the brand at some of the biggest sim races in the world. And one of those races already went by, and it was an incredibly successful race for Team Redline and for BMW. And right now we're going to talk to the team manager, Atze Kerkhof, because he is someone that's been behind this operation for a very long time. Joining me now then is Atze Kerkhof, who's the manager of Team Redline. First off, hello, Atze. And before we get into too many of the successes so far in 2022, because there's been a few, second year in a row, you guys have been a BMW team. That must feel pretty cool.
Absolutely. It's an absolute honor to represent BMW. It's such a great brand and great colors, actually. So, yeah, for the second year in a row, we are very proud to represent BMW.
And I did say this year started off very well. Let's start with Virtual Le Mans. I mean, you guys had quite a race, double victory, but also had some Formula One guy that doesn't know what he's doing hit the wall at one point. You on camera with your reaction. Talk us through that race, because obviously there was some highs and lows.
Yeah, personally for me, it was bittersweet, of course. I wanted to win myself with my entry. But yeah, we had 3 entries active in the race. And the BMW team absolutely nailed it. Like they did the whole Virtual Le Mans series completely. Got everything out of the car with perfect strategy, with perfect teamwork. So that absolutely, we cannot wish for a better result for BMW, of course. With the LMP2, we won with our real team entry, and we were quite dominant until we DNF with our own entry. But yeah, just for us, it was again, it showed that if we work really hard together, if we work really well together, and communicate well, then we can do anything with the team. And this was the proof of it. So next time we want to make it a 1-2 in the LMP, and we're going to dominate the GTE hopefully again.
Yeah, well, and dominated the BMW SIM GT Cup in the first race as well. We just saw some highlights, a 1-2 in that. What is it that makes Redline stand out so much? Because obviously you guys are such a professional team, so successful. What goes on behind the scenes that makes it all work so well?
Well, it's the teamwork, of course, and I think I've said it before in an interview that a few years back we knew we were getting beaten too much, and we changed the team, we changed the structure of the team, we started communicating differently, and yeah, now the pressure is on for every race we go into, and we don't expect anything less than winning the race. And if we don't win, we need to make sure we dig deep enough to make sure that we can win the next one, and that's the whole purpose of the team at the moment. And all we want to do is win, and I think everyone in the team, yeah, embrace that thought, embrace that idea of training just as hard as we can, work together to make sure that we don't leave any stone unturned.
And you guys have quite a large roster. How many drivers are on the roster right now? And what kind of practice are they expected to do? Are they expected to do it on their own, or do you guys have a pretty set regime now that you kind of oversee what they're doing in on the track, I guess, in the sim?
Yeah, it depends a little bit on the sim, of course. We are active in rFactor, in RaceRoom, ACC, iRacing. So every platform requires a little bit of a different approach. However, we work together, and before the Le Mans race, for example, we had organized training sessions where, mandatory training sessions for everyone to make sure that everyone can work together as much and be together on track. It's not only about the hot lapping, it's also racing together, getting used to dirty air, and all these things need to be covered. So you need to put the hours in together to really find the limit.
What sort of practice do you do aside from sim? Is there any sort of mental training you guys have brought into it now with, the professionalism rising and obviously some pro drivers, Max Verstappen being involved with you guys, Rudy Van Buren, who's done a lot of Porsche Super Cup stuff now. What kind of stuff do they bring to it that's different, or maybe you guys have implemented that goes beyond just sitting in the sim and doing laps?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's not about doing laps only. It's a mental part is a big thing in sim racing. It's the biggest thing in sim racing. So you need to practice all of these things. And last year we started together with BMW drivers. We started doing training, mental training. And I think that works out really well for some guys. And that last tent that you always miss in quali because of the nerves, these things these little time losses you can weed out by doing mental training. So we are taking this more and more serious, like actually in real racing they do as well. And with guys like Max Verstappen on board, I think it sets the bar high, but also how to approach the training and how to approach the car setup, for example. So if you are very detailed about what you feel, what you want to improve, and if you are pushing hard enough, you can find that little bit of extra time. And I think we improved a lot on that area.
Yeah, very, very cool. Talk to me about sort of team. You said there was some structure changes when you realized things were growing so quickly a few years ago. I know you yourself have a sim center, and we talked about, I tried to get there a few years ago. It didn't work out, but I've heard rumors of a plan for sort of a Team Redline headquarters or a Team Redline hub. Is this true?
Yeah. We're not shouting it off the roofs yet. It's still work in progress, but indeed we have an office in Holland. Kevin Siggy is training there full time. It's his home ground, basically. That's where his sim is. And every day he shows up in the office to train. And we try to expand this over the next months, next year, to get more drivers into this facility. But yeah, due to the COVID, it's not the best time to get everyone together in one room. But the office is mega, and we have the sims there, and our partner support us perfectly with providing the material. And we combine the office with my other company, Adrenaline Control, where we have 2 massive simulators to train Formula 2 and Formula 3, but now also GT drivers. And I think that those 2 companies together, and it creates a fine synergy. And also me being there most of the days, of course, I have overview of what's happening, and it works really well. So yeah, that's definitely something that we will going to expand in the future.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it'd be cool to, we're seeing more and more teams do that, trying to get everyone in one place instead of doing, driver swaps through the internet, doing driver swaps for virtual Le Mans in real life, literally. I know Rudy had an issue with his sim, had to drive 3 hours, stuff like that. Yeah. If it's all in one spot, it's easy to fix and maintain. So that's kind of cool. Where do you see kind of Redline going in the future? Like you say, you want to win every race. I know sim's developing. There's rumors of all sorts of things that are going to be happening in the esports world. Where do you kind of see sim and Redline in, let's say, 2023?
Well, we want to keep getting better, of course. There's a lot of room. There's a lot of room to improve in the part of working together, maximizing everyone's strength to put everything together and create synergy. I think we're just at the beginning stages of this improvement. And the races get bigger, the prize money gets bigger, so the competitions get more and more interesting for the audience and for the drivers as well. So the stakes go up, and that means that we need to grow along with the other teams. So you can see that the other teams are getting quicker and quicker, and we need to work harder and harder to stay in front or to catch up. And whatever happens. So we need to keep pushing.
All right. I think it's exciting. I love that it's getting this competitive in sim. I enjoy watching sim races more than most real races at this point now. I think it's there's more at stake in terms of how close the competition is. So listen, thanks for the insights. I think it's awesome. I can't wait to see more from that hub and more from you guys this season in BMW SIM GT Cup.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you everyone for the support, of course, and our partners, and most of all BMW. We really enjoy representing you. So let's keep pushing together.
So there you go, Atze Kerkhof, lovely guy. I've been chatting with him for a number of years as I've gotten to know the sim racing community and you guys a little better. And he's someone that's been very, very involved. So always great to chat with him. And as you know, the BMW SIM GT Cup, we just talked about with him and the different approaches from the team. It's hosted on iRacing, but this is a multi-talented organization. And in the world of sim, you've got to be able to drive in just about anything. And R Factor 2 hosted the biggest race of their year annually just a few weeks ago. It was the 24-hour of Le Mans virtual, the official 24-hour, supported by the ACO, supported by the FIA. And if you remember correctly, this all started with the pandemic. It hit in 2020. There was an uncertainty of what was going to happen in the racing world. And very quickly on their feet, ACO realized, hang on, we can do this in the virtual. And such was the success that this year, yes, it was still a finale at Le Mans, but it was actually a full season. And we are very, very proud, again, to talk to the winning team in GTE, driving none other than the BMW M8 GTE, our partner team. Once again, as I said, it's going to be all about Team Redline today. We're going to be joined by Rudy Van Buren, Lorenzo Colombo, Enzo Burrito, as I call him, but Enzo Benito, and Kevin Siggy, who is no stranger to success, all of these guys individually. But what a team they made. Guys, thanks for joining me first and foremost. And yeah, how special is this race when you get sort of the eyes of the entire motorsport world on it?
I don't know, the 24-hour race, it was crazy. It was my first win, and also Kevin's first 24-hour race win, I think. Maybe Lorenzo as well, or Rudy as well. I don't know, I think it was all of our first win. Yeah, it was. So it was very special. I didn't realize it until Dom messaged me, like, you are 24-hour race winner. I was like, I never won one of those. I just realized it. And Kevin realized it after as well. But before that, we were just focusing on ourselves and our pace and just push the car as much as we can without making any mistakes. I think the team did a fantastic job. Also, the engineer behind us and the management, because we literally did not do a mistake the whole 24-hour long. I think just Rudy had that issue with the steering wheel, which was pretty crazy. I think he can tell you the story. That's a really good story. And yeah, I'm super proud of everyone. I'm proud of myself. It's just crazy.
Yeah, super successful race. Rudy, I actually want to jump to that. We might as well talk about it right now because you were racing from home. I know Atze just mentioned in future the esports hub for Redline. You had to drive there mid-race. So you did a stint, 2 hours and 50 odd minutes, double stint. And then you had to do a stint in real life to go do another stint. That was kind of ridiculous. Talk me through that.
Yeah, that was stressful. That was more stressful than everything leading up to the race. I guess in the third stint I did in the race, I started getting shifting problems, which basically means the car just stuck in gear on random moments. And when that happened, I heard the Windows connection sound when you pull a
Yes.
USB out. Well, mostly when you hear that in sim racing, it's not good. Figured we had a solution. I was in bed thinking, okay, because initially before this Windows sound, I was thinking maybe it's the lever itself, so it sticks. So I actually thought about, okay, I'll just start shifting with buttons on the wheel, worst case, and then I'll get through it, because Le Mans wasn't so difficult with the shifting points. Got in the car back at like 4 in the night, and then within 2 laps it was ba-ding, 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 and yeah, things hit the fan. We managed to get through the stint, but the problem was increasing. And then we got to the point, okay, do you have a spare wheel? Well, no. That is one other solution. Go to the Redline headquarters and jump in Siggy's rig, the one we're actually sitting in right now, and do the remaining time there. Some people found it odd to jump in a car at night, where I thought, well, this was at that moment, either we charge for the win or we fight for the win, or we're done, because you have the driving times and so on. So did the 1 hour in the night with the shifting problems, 2 hour drive, 2.5 hour drive to the Redline headquarters, did some preparation, another double stint there, and then I could chill out.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And it's interesting as well, because obviously with Porsche, they had the Coanda guys all in one room. They had multiple sims set up. It's kind of what they were anticipating. Whereas, yeah, that's something that a hub could benefit, but also it meant that they were all trained on the same wheel mapping, the same feedback, the same setup, essentially. How difficult was it for you to jump into Siggy's rig that was presumably quite a bit, well, maybe a little bit different. I don't know how much different.
No, the seating position, etc., there was, well, close to what I would put it. The main difficulty then is obviously the force feedback, which were on his settings, and the not specifically camera angle, but the field of view. So how the game is rendered over the 3 screens, because that changes your perception of speed. And I have my philosophy for that. Kevin has something that's quite far out of that. Not saying one is right or the other is right, but it's different to drive on. So we changed a bit with the seat position in game to get to a point where we said, okay. And then it was just hang in there, push. Yeah,
absolutely. And hang in there, you did. Kevin, how about you from that perspective? You know, sharing your rig and all of a sudden having an unexpected visitor, that must have been kind of interesting. Just to you know, jump out and suddenly realize it's not just about your setup anymore. You've got to get Rudy in the car.
Yeah, at that moment it was absolutely stressful, to be honest. As soon as I knew that he was coming over, I was like, okay, let's make the whole rig set up to his liking as much as we could without really screwing up my kind of feelings, so that he can drive the whole, like the 2 stints that he had to do. But it was cool as well as like that moment, that kind of like, yeah, that kind of moment kind of was really interesting to both of us, because we just weren't really prepared for it, and we tried the best that we could and to kind of fix it, and we did. So like we didn't have any sort of major issues. We kind of tried putting Lorenzo in the middle of us so I can actually adjust some other stuff before my stints or his stints. But yeah, overall it was a surreal experience. We obviously weren't expecting it, but when that was done, we were relieved and we were super proud at how we executed it. And to be honest, Rudy did an insanely good job at getting used to it. Like literally 5 laps after 5 laps of his practicing, I saw the lap and I was like, damn, this guy's really on it already in my sim, which is the complete opposite of what he has. So it was an insane experience, and I really loved it.
Yeah, that's super cool. Lorenzo, from your perspective, middle of the night in the race time, because I know it's different for everyone in the world, but middle of the night, you know, the 9-2 car, the closest rival, the defending champions from last year, gets taken out. Was there a point when you guys thought, because you guys were also running, I think, 15 lap stints. Porsche, again, closest rival, was doing 14. They definitely were running, I think, an average stint time of like a 49, high 49, low 50. And you guys were kind of hovering around the high 50, 51, but had a pit stop in hand. Was there a sense of relief when 9-2 maybe went out? Obviously, it's never nice to see competitors have bad luck, but when did you guys start to realize we can win this?
Well, for me, I was sleeping at that moment when the
okay, fair.
Crashed, so I wasn't really following the race. But yeah, just connecting a little bit to what happened to Rudy, I had a very bad wake-up call from Kevin around 4 a.m. because I was planning to do to join later in the race. And yeah, I was like, maybe I'm a little bit disappointing because he's gonna say something bad that for sure I planned during the sleep, you know, some sort of nightmares that you have during a 24-hour races. But yeah, then we managed that well. Also, big shout out to fixing all the driving time and swapping the time slots, so the driving time for us. So I think Redline there did a mega job to respect everything, of course. And then, yeah, regarding I would say Porsche versus BMW, I think we were much better on fuel. We managed the fuel saving very well, and we were a little bit slower comparing with the Porsches, but I think overall we were not suffering that much because we could keep a very good average pace still, and doing one lap longer, of course, it's always better, and especially in 24-hour races.
It was pretty noticeable. Like they were, you know, they could not well, either they couldn't or they didn't plan it on strategy with all the practice they did. Just to go back to something you said before I jump onto the strategy aspect of that, Atze, obviously with Max hitting the wall, his car's out. Does he immediately switch roles back to manager and start to work out that drive time with you guys? Who is managing your race, sort of from the pit wall, if you will?
Well, we had Andre. He was basically our engineer, but he was also sharing the car with sharing the job with the LMP2 car. And yeah, of course, in the first part of the race, we weren't really helped much, but I think we were in a comfortable position to, decide ourselves. And then, unfortunately, when the 1-2-3 car crashed, on one side, we had much more support regarding engineering stuff and managing the stints. So yeah, on one side, it's very disappointing, but on the other side, I think we really needed a little bit more help throughout the race at that point because, the competitors were really close. In the end, the race only finished with like 30 seconds compared BMW versus Sport. So in a 24-hour race, this gap is like very, very small. Like it's very, very close all the race. And I think they also got a drive-through for that. And they lost even like free time, let's say. So
yeah, I think Mitchell de Jong was in car when that happened. Yep.
Imagine if he didn't take the drive-through, how close would have been till the end. We were like talking about seconds, really, a few seconds. So, but yeah, I think we needed that support at that time also because Rudy started to have problems with the steering wheel. So I think we managed that well. As I said before, mega job for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Kevin, because you're the one that's, I guess, in the Team Redline hub, as Atze said, you're racing from there. Lorenzo said it. I mean, it's disappointing that one car goes out, but then you get that support. That's kind of the attitude with Redline, isn't it? It's, all hands on deck, do whatever you can to help each other out. You might have a bad day personally, but it's very much a team effort, isn't it? And what's the perspective like being in that hub and kind of seeing a guy like Atze work and manage, and I guess getting a little more feel for that side of things instead of just your rig?
It's definitely cool. It's definitely different because I, of course, can do it in person. Everyone else has to do it online with him. But yeah, the engineering part in that and looking at the data and the whole of telemetry and everything that you can kind of find, it's really helpful because getting that real life kind of like feeling and have a conversation in real life is super important in terms of trying to learn from the data and instead of just doing it online. So it was obviously sad for the 1-2-3 car to DNF, but of course, as you said, we had a lot more support with that. We had Andre come up to our car instead of being either me doing the engineering sometimes. So yeah, that definitely put the weight out of my shoulders and kind of made it a lot easier, let's say. But it was also super fun to kind of talk through the whole strategy thing again and try and see all the alternatives that we need for the race.
It's kind of fair, I guess, then to say that you kind of took a leadership role prior to that, which is interesting. Sometimes within a 4-car team, someone does that as the sort of the experienced driver, usually the one who's done more of these or is the older among the team. But in this case, because of the engineering aspect, did you get to sleep at all? Because like you were kind of doing the engineering, and as Lorenzo said, he was sleeping in the night. You called him and woke him up, which is fair. I always think I've never done a 24-hour race, but I think sleeping would be the hardest part of the whole race for me. When my mind's going on stuff like that, I don't know how you could possibly fit it in. So how did you manage that, kind of doing a double role?
Well, I managed it. I think for me, it's quite easy. I'm used to all-nighters. I'm used to just being awake for a long time. So for me,
typical gamer.
Exactly, typical gamer, typical university guy. For me, it wasn't that difficult. I mean, getting the engineer role in the first hour or two with Mark Elkeman was kind of tough getting used to at first, but when I got used to it, it was quite easy, to be honest. But that's just me. I'm super competitive. I want my team to succeed, everyone else to be on the same pace as whoever's the fastest in the car. So for me, it kind of feels like it's my job to kind of help the teammates as much as I can so that we can have the best result. And as you said, with the all-nighter, it was easy. I don't even have a feeling of time, of what the time really is until I actually look at it. Had to take a sip of the energy drink, but yeah, overall it was really easy. Nothing much. I'm used to it, and I don't really lose pace from it. So that's good.
Apparently, you and the energy drinks are a thing. I'm gathering already. So yeah, Rudy, from your perspective, because practice is important, but you've got some other stuff that you do as well. You've got a sim company where you're actually building rigs, delivering them. You've been doing some media stuff in I was about to say Denmark because of Dutch, excuse me, in the Netherlands with Tom Cornell and various people. And obviously this year, we can't go into too much detail, but you've got more obligations again with racing Porsche Cup cars. How difficult is it for you? Is it getting more and more? I know you're an R Factor 2 specialist because you and I first met when you qualified for World's Fastest Gamer. Obviously, you went on to win that, which was incredible. But is it more difficult now to find time to get into the sim, or is it still you just get in there as much as possible?
It depends on the real season. I tend to, let's say, when the other racing series are active, I only use the sim for coaching sessions, and I don't really get close to it. But then once the season is done, after a week or two, three, then the racing starts to itch again, and then there's only one solution, and that is the sim. So I need to schedule it more. I'm sure the teammates have a bit of back pain of carrying me in the preparation sometimes because I'm the one who's always late or less laps or anything. But we managed to make it work in the end. And in that case, I can rely a little bit on my R Factor 2 experience, let's say it that way. If I would do this in a different platform, it would definitely be a struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's incredible that there's so many drivers that switch back and forth. Enzo, you've done a bit of switching. I know R Factor, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is probably your go-to, but you've done some iRacing stuff, jumped in and out. How difficult is it, especially when you're focusing on this 24-hour race? And we know, Benecca, for example, is going back and forth this weekend. How difficult is it to switch sims and switch your sort of mentality like that?
Well, I mean, over the past years, I got used to it. It's just that, I mean, at the start, I was really feeling the difference between the sims. Like I was doing F1 esports back in the day, 2 or 3 years
Yeah, that's
ago.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really doing just that, focusing on that. And when I was doing that, and then maybe sometimes joining Redline for some, special events, there I was really struggling. I was not used at the time. But I learned in those 2 or 3 years back that it really doesn't do anything to me anymore because we switch to it daily. I think the secret is just to switch it as much as you can, because in the end, you start driving and then you maybe need that one lap, but you don't need the whole day to get used to it. So it's always a struggle in the end. I know it's really hard to do. Everyone really, you can't just be the quickest guy on all the sims, because in the end, a guy that drives only that one sim maybe always has that little bit of an edge on you, that alpha, that 1/10, so it's always a struggle, but I think you just need to drive as much as you can, and in the end you will just get used to it.
Maybe the endurance thing is a good thing in that respect, because it's not necessarily about that last little 10%. There's more to it to switch back and forth, and good drivers have to adapt in real life too. So it's interesting. Do you do anything in the wheel to, like, for example, I've talked to some people that say they tighten the steering ratio for R Factor versus iRacing, or change feedback settings, or do you just jump in and go?
No, we definitely have. I have different configuration of my steering wheel, so I have different presets for all the simulators. Each of them done by carefully, and so maybe that helps as well. I mean, it's all the experience in the end. I've been doing a lot of competition on Assetto Corsa, ACC, R Factor, iRacing, F1 esports. So I mean, all these years really helped me a lot, and now I'm a bit more prepared. Definitely a lot.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, guys, I guess we can go through each of you. Enzo, I've still got you on screen. So is this the biggest win for you guys? You said it's the first 24-hour for each of you, but is this the biggest win so far in your sim career?
Well, it's one of the biggest for sure. I mean, even the biggest, I think I would say, yeah, why not? Because we won for a brand which is BMW, and we are super proud of it. And then also for Team Redline, I mean, it was such a huge successful thing for Team Redline, and we didn't get to celebrate it properly all together because of COVID, but I think that's still the plan at some point. But
I want to be there. I'm coming.
Yeah.
I want to party.
Yeah. Hopefully we can. Well, not hopefully. We keep pushing for sure, but hopefully we can win again.
Cool. Rudy, what about you? Is this the biggest in your sim career? I know obviously World's Fastest Gamer is a little different. It's a different win. That obviously was huge for your career as a whole, but as an individual sim race, is this the biggest?
I think one of the. I need to go really far back, and I think to Live for Speed times. Then I'm mentioning like 2011, 2012, that area, to find something that might compare. So in recent years, for sure, this is the biggest.
Yeah. Kevin, how about you? Because we saw you at the Race All-Star Series last year looking sharp. We've seen you all over the place with our factory. Is this up there for you?
Yeah, definitely. Since this is the first 24-hour race, I mean, it is one of the special ones, especially because it's Le Mans. It's a very special win. Definitely up there in one of the best. I obviously won Formula E 2 years ago with
That's
BMW
true,
as well.
yeah.
So that's also one of the big ones. So I'm not sure if it's the biggest one. I mean, I've won plenty of things that are really, really important to me, and I just keep to heart. But it's definitely up there in the top 5, top 3 for sure, because it's such a special event.
Just saying that though, you bring up a good point. I mean, yes, it's Le Mans, but it's the official virtual Le Mans as well. So, the ACO is behind it. This year, Fernando Alonso wasn't involved. Obviously, Max was with you guys. Fernando joined for an interview just because he's got other stuff going on. But, Juan Pablo Montoya, how special is it as a sim racer to suddenly be racing against those guys? And to be fair, be faster than most of those guys.
Well, it's definitely cool. I mean, sim racing getting that sort of exposure for the real Formula One drivers or ex-Formula One drivers to be driving it's really cool experience. Sometimes they're a little bit slower. They get into the way a little bit. It depends, but it's always great. It's always a great feeling. You can brag about it with your friends, tell them that you've beaten Jenson Button, Fernando Alonso, or Max in the sim. So yeah, it's a cool thing to have them, and I hope we have many more of these, because I've seen that a lot of these real life drivers are already going into the sims, preparing, and are really getting along and getting really good in them as well.
Yeah, I've talked to a few of them that are, I think it frustrates them that they're slower. So they're more motivated actually in sim to get quick because they want to get that. I mean, they're used to it in real life. Lorenzo, what about you? Is this up there on the table for you for biggest sim win?
Yeah, first of all, my experience in sim racing is very little, but with these guys here, with Team Redline and with these teammates here, they've been fantastic during the race. So I think it's for sure the best victory on sim racing, the biggest achievement I could have done, till now. And I hope we can do more in the future and grow up. Especially my experience needs to grow up, because I joined the team in 1.5 years basically.
Yep.
So yeah, plenty of stuff to improve on my side, but I'm thinking that here I feel very confident that we can improve. I can improve as well, so a lot, and we'll see what happens. But regarding to what Kevin said about the real drivers, I would like also to say that this 24-hour virtual gave me a bit of an idea of what endurance racing will be, because I'm gonna join WC 2022 season 10 with LMP2. So yeah, it gives me a little bit of a good entrance, let's say, winning the 24-hour virtual races, and same people will be there in the WC season. So it's a good entry ticket, let's say.
Yeah, very cool. That obviously does bode very well for you. And yeah, absolutely. Being kind of newer to the team, it must be nice to have this sort of organization and this sort of support, like you say, to get more experience.
Yeah, when I'm driving with them, I always start at the beginning that I'm a little bit not super confident, but then when doing laps and practice and then see what the others are doing, and I try to they help me to extract everything I've got in driving wise, and I also learn new stuff that sometimes sim racing and real racing, they are connected together, and you really need to try to figure it out everything as possible. But yeah, basically with the experience, these things will be a lot automatically to get. And yeah, basically with these guys here, I felt very confident when the race was, when there was actually the race day. I was quite confident really with the pace and everything. So I was not really under pressure.
Yeah, team game. Absolutely. Well, guys, congratulations. I think it was an exceptional race. I think it was a ton of fun to watch. I loved seeing the fact that you guys were doing 15 laps versus Porsche's 14 because it just added an element. Like you say, they may have had the pace, but you guys had the wit to hold on and take the win. 30 seconds isn't a lot over 24 hours. You're absolutely right. But congratulations. Super, super cool. And that's a big achievement. Well, thanks very much to those guys for joining us. All four of them making time to join us here on Ignition for today's show. And obviously could have picked Lorenzo's brain, perhaps should have a little more. As mentioned, he's going to be going LMP2 racing in WEC this year with Prima and jumping over from, I think, a Formula 3, a single-seater background. So very, very cool. That he also mentioned that getting a virtual win is so important for him to get his name in the door and make a name for himself within that organization and that series before even getting there in real life. So very, very cool. And obviously Rudy's a busy guy. Enzo and Siggy are both such top drivers within Sim. And I love the story of Rudy driving, 2.5 to 3 hours at night because of his Sim acting up, and, goes to where Kevin's located at the Red Line hub, if you will, and where Atze's located. And they have to wake up Lorenzo again, just like real life, the minimum driver time, the maximum driver time. They're trying to organize these stints and adapt. And those are real life problems. Those are the same things that the successful teams at Le Mans do. And I think it's very cool to see the commitment that these guys put in to win that race. A first 24-hour win for all of those guys, which is crazy because they're all such successful and skilled drivers. But we are going to switch focus. We are about to get into the race you're all here for right now. Back to iRacing, back to the BMW SIM GT Cup, the M4 GT3, and we are on track at Road Atlanta. Perhaps fittingly, we just talked about Le Mans. Well, the most famous race at this track is known as Petit Le Mans. It's very twisty. It's technical. It's a beautiful driver's track, but we're about to find out if it's a great racetrack. As Team Redline maybe win it again, we'll find out with Arjuna and Lewis in just a second. But first, we're going to get ready, get reset, and jump into the action.
When Dr. Don Panos visited Le Mans in the mid-1990s, little did he know the legacy he would leave here at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. 25 odd years later, there is nothing petit about the home of Petit Le Mans, a race held in Brazelton, Georgia, that sees the population of this town swell to over 100,000 yearly to celebrate motorsport in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Today, though, it's about BMW SIM GT Cup competition as we get set for round number 2 on the way to BMW Sim Live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and BMW Esports, where we are ready to go racing for the second of our 2-hour sprints here in a 10-race calendar that leads us into BMW Sim Live. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, as always joined by the one and only Lewis McLeod, and you can follow along with live timing and scoring powered by our partners at Timing 71 by heading to racespot.wtf/BMW. And Lewis, it was a barn burner of a race last time out at Daytona. This time, we're not going to see as much fuel saving, we're not necessarily going to see as much chaos, but when we think about Road Atlanta, we think about passing opportunities that you have to set up and you have to execute on pitch strategy.
Yeah, obviously you've got the little run down into the chicane on the back stretch, but you've also got that run in turn 1 as well, which people do tend to forget about. The momentum carried from the chicane down the hill through the final corner really opens up for a great overtaking opportunity into T1. The S's, we're definitely going to see some side-by-side down there. It's just only really for the brave. We have some talking points, though, from Daytona. Of course, it was a Team Redline 1-2. Now, they have, I believe it's 5 cars out today. The one car that was missing from that 1-2, though, they ended up finishing in 10th place, was the Team Redline Red car, Maximilian Benecke behind the wheel of that one. Patrick Holzman, a good day yesterday, of course, seeing if they're going to maybe make some progress today.
And let's talk a little bit then about what we've got in store for us throughout the rest of 2022. It should be noted that these dates are somewhat provisional. BMW Sim Live, we're working on the scheduling for that as well. Do not be surprised if those final 2 rounds are moved forward, so there's not such a long wait between August 14th and October 2nd, because that really is an age here in the sim racing world. But today it's about Road Atlanta. We'll go racing at Sebring at the end of March. All roads then lead to the Nürburgring as we head to Europe for the very first time before a return to Watkins Glen, a trip into the Ardennes at Spa-Francorchamps for Hockenheim, Barber, and what a race that's going to be. Silverstone and Tezuka will lead us to BMW Sim Live. Of course, new format this year, Lewis. It's not about winning you're in, which is exciting, but doesn't lend itself to seeing consistent performances rewarded with tickets to BMW Sim Live. We've got a point structure very similar to that you'll see in Formula 1, for example. We've also got the same prize money, and because we have 10 regular races, $42,000 paid out, in addition to the almost $80,000, for example, that we paid out last year. And the best part about it, at least in my opinion, we're not just rewarding the best of the best. 250 iRacing credits go to a random driver outside of this top split.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that we've got plenty of splits out there racing. It's not just about the top one. Everyone else is also having their fun and enjoying their Sunday afternoon. I've said before, I said it last round, I like the way that we've switched it up. We've turned it into a bit more of a championship. We've simplified things. We're not talking about a ticket to BMW Sim Live and then working out who that goes to, because obviously after the race winner, then it would go to whoever's in 4th or 5th or whatever it was. Simplifying it. None of that. It's just about the point structure. It's about finding our top drivers in the points. Again, to remind you how the points work in this, the team accrues the points, i.e. the result that the team gets, but it goes to the drivers. So last round, for example, Chris Thullum and Gianni Vecchio both received 25 points.
And here's a look at the standings. And one thing to note, we mentioned last time at Daytona that fastest lap bonus point went to both drivers. Confirmation post-race, that is not the case. The rule is that it's the driver that gets that bonus point. Will we see that play a factor? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but this is how at least the top 5 teams have lined themselves up heading into the second round. But again, a long, long way to go. The reality is this is going to change, and change dramatically over the course of the rest of 2022. Here we are though, Brazelton, Georgia, just over 2.5 miles, 4 kilometers in length. You don't get the sense for the elevation changes here though, Lewis. Up through turn 1, down the S's, back up through turn 5, and that crucial turn 7 that leads you onto that back straightaway and the main passing opportunity at the chicane. One of the things that you really don't understand until you drive this track is that turn 7 isn't a 90-degree ride. It's a little bit more than 90 degrees.
And we're going to see people going off there. That is for a certainty. It's hard to get the car hooked up there. The difficulties for me on this track has always been corners like turn 3. It's basically a blind apex over the top of a crest of a hill. And when you're doing that with 2, 3, 4 cars ahead of you, 2, 3, 4 cars behind you, it honestly can be very, very difficult to pick your markers out. That's why practice is king around a circuit like this, where it is so difficult. The undulations over the race circuit, it's brutally bumpy as well at certain points. I mean, think of the exit of T5 and over that curve. There are problems around the circuit. It does require a bit of bravery and does require an awful lot of consistency.
It's my second favorite racetrack in the world, behind the North.
Bathurst.
Yeah, well,
yeah, no, I'm with you.
No, are you saying Bathurst is your second favorite?
No.
I think I got you there. But I tell you what, let's get ready to go racing. And it's a great feature that we have today. We have a number of drivers sharing their webcam. Multiple drivers from the Apex Racing Team facility, where they now moved in, they are racing from, and we'll see Kevin Ellis Jr. and Jamie Fluke there, Alejandro Sanchez, Johan Ott, and Elvis Rankin all racing from home. Gianni Vecchio from Team Redline joins us, as well as Tumas Tatala, who has won here a couple of years ago, back when we ran the BMW M8 GTE machine in our 2020 edition of the BMW Sim 120. But qualifying is working its way towards its conclusion, and the qualifying times have been set. And well, is it any surprise that it's Team Redline at the top? The big shock here, Lewis, at least if you ask me, BS Competition. We saw them have some rather torrid luck last year. You think back to that first race in this M4 at Imola, but this time, no such drama.
They didn't have a good round last time out at Daytona either. They struggled through the race, same with the BS Turner car. Did not get to grips with the track. This is looking a lot better. They weren't inside the top 10, didn't score any points. Now, right up there and ready to attack. I think the other thing is that it's the Team Redline green car. It's Luke Bennett behind the wheel of that car that has taken it up to, at least for now, the provisional pole position, which is honestly fantastic for the young driver.
Someone that we really made strides in the sim world last year. Of course, Bennett has plenty of karting experience under his belt. Watch out for MSI Esports as well. No Alejandro Sanchez, of course, who has moved over to the Apex Racing team. Danny Elgabe has put that car onto row number 3. We got Lasse back and Fira in 6th. This is a really interesting top 10, Lewis. I mean, other than the Redline domination once more, we got 3 of their cars in the top 10. I think this is wide open.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of one of those races where you know that there are some teams that might sneak a good result here. The Apex tend to do it. MSI, obviously, when it was Salva Talens and Alejandro Sanchez over in the Apex car now, and did a fantastic job at the start of Daytona. Those are the kind of teams that can sneak a result. By the way, just as an update as to where that Team Redline red car is, Patrick Holtzman and Max Benecke. Holtzman qualified 19th.
Wow, well, that's a lot of work for them to do, but I tell you what, with that, it is time to go take a look at our starting grid for the 2-hour sprint here at the Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. We have a full pace lap, so plenty of time for us to work our way through what is a humongous field, but it is Luke Bennett, it is Team Redline that take pole position, a 1:17.406. They'll lead us to the green flag. Phil Denez, the Monterey, Californian native, on the outside of the front row, with Johan Hart, the Frenchman, alongside Chris Lullum on row 2. Danny Elgabe and Lasse Back will share row number 3. Matti Sipala for the 777 will line up inside of Iago Martinez in the Zenith Esports number 7, while Enzo Benito, fresh off a multi-sim weekend just last time out for him, will be on the edge of the top 10 with Michael Neumeier for the Bieler Racing Team Euronic. Jaden Ladick switching teams after a busy weekend for him, competing yesterday with DT Sim Protostar Racing. Today he will be in the Valkyrie Esports by Francorchamps Miniatures 157th. He'll be alongside Premislav Lemenek in the number 18 for RAG. Row 7 sees the Apex Racing Academy car alongside Tumas Tatsler for Kova, Thibaut Casabon and Alexander Thieber, 15th and 16th positions, while Alejandro Sanchez, what a display it was from him at the first stint at Daytona before a mistake in pit lane cost Apex chance of victory. He'll be back in 17th alongside, well, the Zebra Taco Machine with Felix Quirnbach behind the wheel of the number 96. Patrick Holtzman for Team Redline Red, back in 19th with lots of work to do at a track that is notoriously difficult to work your way through some carnage and some chaos. Full-time Esports by Tony Kanan and Gustavo Ariel round out the top 10. About a quarter of a second splits first through 20th positions. Arthur LeHook for Williams Esports Chill Blast will be inside of Arnage Competition, while Fire Simsport Purple and RAG share row number 12. Ricardo Rico in another one of the pink machines will be back in 25th, with Florian Labigra in the number 88 in 26th. Fire Simsport Apex Academy 27th and 28th, while rounding out row 15 and the top 30 will be Valkyrie Esports and Arnage Competition. Elvis Rankin, the young American, lines up back in 31st, with Divina Esports in 31st, Sim 3D Sport and NSH Racing Team 33rd and 34th, while back on row 18, Full Send Racing and Valkyrie Esports by Pilar Competition. About half a second, 6/10 back. Not much separating these drivers. Drive Dead Racing, Wannabe SRT Black, Drive Dead Racing, and Triton round out the top 40, while P1 Esports German Sim Racing DE by Hetzner row number 21. Deutsche Payment Esports Coolscheiker, EFP Racing, Ignium Motorsports, Marshmallow Racing Team, and Valkyrie complete our 47 cars ready to rumble here. Not much separating those top 45, only 1 second. It's a close field, and Lewis, with a field this big, we are expecting lap traffic to play a factor at some point in this race.
Yeah, it certainly will to some degree. Whether it's going to be a couple laps even into the race after some early issues, we just don't really know. It's going to cause its problem. It's a really hard place to do your lapping unless it's on the back stretch, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. For me, there's a lot of questions of drivers on this grid. I mean, you brought up Elvis Rankin. They're surprised to see that Elvis Rankin qualified down in 31st. This is a driver, when racing for the Apex Racing team, not in the Academy car, last round, ended up finishing 4th alongside Jamie Fluke. A lot of progress, one of our drivers right up there in the championship.
Expectations. I mean, expectations here, Lewis. I mean, I don't think I can put you on the spot and throw you under the bus and ask you to make a prediction, because lap 1 here, you think about the run out of the final corner. We're going to see cars trying to go early. We're going to see chaos down into turn number 1.
It's a big grid, 47 cars, and we always see this at Road Atlanta. It's one of those typical factors that we see back here. So those that are, 30th on back are genuinely in the danger zone, because, like you say, a couple of cars tend to go up ahead, and then everyone comes back together again. I think we also might see some carnage up at turn 3 and through turn 5 as well.
47 cars, round 2 of the road to BMW Sim Live. We continue here from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. The pace car is off, and already Luke Bennett for Team Redline Green picks up the throttle. We're racing at Road Atlanta. Great start around the outside from Chris Lullum. The car off in the background, one of the Drive Dead Racing cars, wannabe SRT. Oh, a bit more carnage, a bit more chaos. The top 20 or so cycle their way up the hill into turn 3. No major dramas just yet.
Yeah, I think that was one of the Apex Racing team cars. Bit of side-by-side between Fira trying to get to the inside of Team Redline Blue as well. So Lasse back trying to get to the inside of Chris Lullum at the moment. Luke Bennett leading comfortably, still side-by-side between R8G and Apex in the middle of the pack.
Cones went flying. I think one of the Arnage competition cars went wide at turn 5, and look at them scrambling on the exit of turn number 5. BS Turner side by side, but they come in through turn 7. Crucial to get the momentum off the corner here to carry yourself down into the chicane.
Yeah, those taking a really tight line here are really going to be a sitting duck once it gets down to the end, but thankfully you might be able to pick up slipstream. They'll go back to BS Turner, who I think actually had a decent drive. They were on the outside running through it, but look who's on the inside. It is Patrick Holtzman trying to make the move, and now it's Williams Esports as well coming through, so this might not be ideal. That is Artele Hook making a bit of progress.
Not as much lap 1 chaos as maybe you would expect, at least at the front of the field. Gustavo Ariel has been off the road. Oh, there's a bit more carnage, a bit more chaos back in the pack. Patrick Holtzman gets mixed up in that one for Team Redline Red, but across the line, leading lap number 1. Luke Bennett from Phil Denez, from Johan Harth, from Chris Lullum, Lasse back the top 5. You can already see there's a car up in front of them that is going to cause a bit of chaos when the lap traffic plays a factor. But the big drama already, Team Redline Red involved in an incident.
And that's why you can't afford to qualify poorly on a grid this big, this strong, this potent, this talented. You can't afford it, but you can see there is a big split in the grid. Obviously, where that incident was happening, P17 to P18, the gap's sort of around 2 to 3 seconds. So we've got 17 cars in this train. Now, what do they do? Typically around Road Atlanta, and we saw this at Daytona as well, the cars would sit single file. They'd save a bit of fuel. I think that's what was going to be on the game plan for today, but what we were being told is you don't necessarily need to save as much fuel.
We'll get a look at the replay. It was the Apex Academy car bundled wide, maybe by one of the other Apex cars, and Barney the Flagman had a great view of all of that. We'll get another one. Look at this one, maybe from up above. That's not going to give us the best angle, is it? It was 3 wide Arnage and Fira that really kicked off the Hornet's nest there, and well, that's not what you want to see. I think Drive Dead Racing was involved in that one. And then the big drama, let's see if we can pick up what happened with... Oh, first we're going to see what happened with Ricardo Rico. Oh, he just gets a snap. And that's cold tires for you. And watch the cones go flying. Watch the rejoin as well, straight into the path. Connery Maddox somewhere is not happy with that one. And German Sim Racing is the one that loses out there.
That was a horrific rejoin from Ricardo Rico. That really wasn't ideal. But, like, I mean, I get it, you know, being off the road and stuff, but that doesn't...
Patrick Holtzman!
Yeah, that's a 0 out of 10 move as well.
That is not wise. In a championship which is handing out something like a ticket to BMW Sim Live. Team Redline Red is already back on pit lane.
And after a bad round at Daytona, it is not getting any better for Team Redline Red. Max Benecke, Patrick Holtzman, two very talented drivers who we know would be fighting at the front in a championship like this, are really struggling here. Don't fully understand the reasons why. Apex switch between the main team and the academy, and also MSI Esports get the move done. Denny Algabe behind the wheel, getting a move on Iago Martinez.
Danny Algabe, a wizard when it comes to graphics. See some of the race posters he's designed for the likes of the ISOWC, but he's also quite handy behind the wheel. Behind him, though, Michael Neumeier now trying to make the move potentially on Iago Martinez. He's having to defend from Matti Sieppula. They're banging doors, leaning on one another. Here comes Enzo Benito in that Team Redline orange machine. Sieppula does get shoved off wide. He's going to be able to rejoin safely, but we talked about side-by-side down the S's. They're too wide, too deep.
Yeah, and you've got the two Cova cars here who we know go quite well around here, and they're just sat in 10th and 11th, and kind of allowing, to be fair, the fact that 707 was there just allowed Matti Sieppula to come back in line ahead of Thomas Tattler. Just behind this, Laddick getting down the inside of Lamanek, potentially in the background for Valkyrie. Opens the door on the RHG driver, but then jumps straight back into the single file. The Hardway fight, you remember those that grouping that was telling you it was 2-3 seconds off the rear end? Well, you can see there, the train is a lot longer than 17 cars now. Naturally, what happens around here?
Another replay of something into turn one. P1 Esports, I think, maybe getting... Oh, no, they're trying to go on the aggressive there. And, well, there's not much that other car could really do to avoid that calamity.
Unfortunately, when you've come through turn one, you've already committed to your line. You've already committed to the speed you're taking through. Apex make the move on Valkyrie. RHG are dropping back now. The AAA of Thibaut Casabon not being able to get up to speed, losing a couple of positions there, and potentially even one more as Williams gets down the inside after the hook, making some more progress.
Bit of Williams news. Looks like Josh Thompson, who's been a Williams staple, first for Williams Gym, and now, of course, for the Williams main team, has left Williams Esports. Where will he go? Well, hopefully we'll find out very, very shortly, because, of course, the World Championship season begun in earnest last night. Down the hill through the S's they come once more. Up front, Phil Denez, Johan Hart, two drivers we've seen battle it out on occasion before. This time around, though, it is Johan Hart, the Frenchman, that is behind and trying to do the chasing as we take a look on board with the Frenchman, the World Rallycross champion here on iRacing back in 2020. Look at him, calm, focused, and composed. That's why these are the best in the world, Lewis.
Yeah, he's looking over to his right side, potentially over to a mirror, maybe over to his black box just to adjust things on the fueling or whatever. I mean, you wouldn't really be doing that this early in the race, but obviously they are running fuel numbers, because the reason why they're trying to save fuel, as much as we think they can actually push to the pretty much the max, saving a little bit, potentially should be able to get a nice, easy, the typical one stop, which is sort of required in this series if you're ever going to compete at the front. Now, that's all well and good, but if you can save a lot of fuel through this stint, what you're doing is you're shortening the stationary time in the pit lane, and that's what they're really focused on right now, is just trying to make sure that that time they are sat still in the pit lane is as short as humanly possible, so they're saving as many litres as they possibly can. Between this, if there is one driver and one team, and this is not me trying to stick out the old commentators, because there's one team that I think would do quite well in this scenario, it is genuinely the BS competition car sat in second. We know their experience within the M4, probably more so than most, particularly in the likes of Phil Denez.
Yes, no, I don't disagree with you there. We have seen some pretty impressive fuel saving from Denez in the past, as we now jump on board with Thomas Tattler back in 11th position and working his way around turn 7. Again, it's more than 90 degrees. You do need to be careful. Thomas Tattler, though, on this start has made up 3 positions. Stark contrast to Matti Sieppula in front, who has lost 3 positions on this start. Swings and roundabout, one car gains, one loses out very slightly. We'll see how things will fare out for both of these Cova machines. Does look as though, by the way, Lasse back has gone and passed Chris Lullum in towards the chicane. Thibaut Casabon gets past Arthur LeHook once more as well, so plenty of action. And we talk about that passing opportunity into the chicane. With fuel saving, we might not see as much passing as we might expect. I think Casabon just has the bit between his teeth, knows there's a 1.2 second deficit back to 16th position, and wants to try and close up.
Yes, Alex on the theme that he's trying to get after in that Team Redline yellow car. And like I say, when that gap starts to grow, that's when the panic starts to sort of come in. And so, at this point, Thibaut Casmont clearly feeling that he is the faster driver within this group, and so is now going to try and close up. These gaps should come back together again. This is how the the concertina effect works, especially with the large slipstream on the back stretch. As they'll come round into the next two corners, they will slow down just a little bit more. Thankfully, Alexander Thieb, though, in this scenario does actually have a decent space to work into ahead of him, but then obviously so does Thibaut Casmont. This grouping should be able to come back on. It's just whether we're kind of seeing these gaps forming, these splinters forming in the pack, and whether they might be getting a little bit too large for some of these drivers to even rule themselves out of a potential top 10, a potential victory. We are really focused on the top 10 this season and scoring points.
Yeah, no, it's not about anyone back in the pack now. It is all about delivering at the front. As we now jump on board with Danny Elgabe working their way through the chicane. Just watch that train of cars. You don't necessarily associate Road Atlanta with massive packs like we do at Daytona, for example, but this is just the quality and the margins at the top level. They are so small, and at a track like this, in a 2-hour race, it's about minimizing mistakes, maximizing the time out on track, and we are going to see, I do think, at some point in this race, it really start to intensify. Maybe towards the pit cycle, Lewis, like we saw last time. I would not be shocked.
Well, look at how many people were separated by a quarter of a second in qualifying, right? It wasn't like the top 5. It was pretty much half the grid, right? Showing how close these drivers are. Now, quarter of a second around here, if you're in the slipstream of the car ahead, honestly, that quarter of a second on the back stretch is enough to keep you in tow. It really, really does work. There we go, Chris Lullum straight back down the inside of Lasse back. We saw that switch. Now, this is just allowing the Apex racing team of Johan Haaf just to build a bit more of a gap. Are they going to allow themselves to get back into single file? Chris Lullum relinquishes the position back to Lasse back, and Danny Elgabe in that MSI Esports car is going to sit there just behind as well. Is there going to be any move down into the chicane? I kind of think it would be wise not to, as the two Cova cars switch in the background.
Yep, oh, that's an aggressive cut of the curb as well. Just remember that every time you go off track here on iRacing, you get a 1x incident point added to your total, 25 incidents, and it's a disqualification. There's really no middle ground here. It's either you're good or you're not. And we saw last year, for example, the likes of Gianni Vecchio being left with just 1 incident point for an entire hour by none other than the Formula 1 world champion Max Verstappen. And well, you can guess right, it did not go well for poor Gianni Vecchio. It's also not going well for German sim racing. Here's a replay, and oh, that is clumsy. That is clumsy. Down in towards turn 6. Things just really are not working out nicely for them. Look at this, just rubbing doors on the entry, and I think that's a disqualification for that other car.
Yeah, which, to be fair, I'm sorry, if you're getting a disqualification 11 minutes into a 2-hour race, you really do need to kind of think about what is going on, and why were you squeezing that hard at that point. Fair enough. Yeah, a bit of hard racing. I think that's a bit ridiculous either way, but I mean, yeah, to be DQ'd this early, honestly, it's just madness to me. But either way, it's happened now. Let's brush it under the carpet and move on. I'm sure German sim racing wish it didn't happen, and sure that that disconnection was the disqualification was coming a bit earlier than it was. Oh well.
Well, we started with 47. We are down to 43. P1 Esports, Drive Dead Racing, Team Redline Red, and Valkyrie Esports by Pyre. The 4 retirements. Of course, Team Redline will be the most significant of them. We had a bit of a good chat with the team and their winners of Virtual Le Mans during our BMW Sim Ignition hosted by Matthew Sadikis-Tribbett. And the most interesting piece of news to me, Lewis, was the fact that we've seen Coanda with their facility, we've seen Altus with their facility, Apex now as well getting into the game. Redline want to join the party as well.
Which, to be honest, I mean, if you really think about all of the other teams, Altus and Apex and obviously Coanda and that lot, and maybe even a couple of other teams, Axel Sporters. That was the Beeler being sent off there a little bit by Enzo Benito, I think, into the corner onto the backstretch. Might need to take a look at that one again as Cova's going to come through. Also watch out for Alejandro Sanchez in that 98. But it's actually more of a surprise that Redline haven't had one before, to be perfectly honest, because it's considering their position in sim racing.
Yeah, but I think that's also just due to the fact that a lot of their drivers are spread out geographically. 3 wide, back in the... Oh, that's a dive and a half. I think that was Premislav Lemonek who sent it down the inside.
Oh, no,
somehow made it work. The Apex Academy car gets mixed up with Valkyrie Esports and Jaden Laydick. My, oh my, it is all picking up once more and gaps are starting to form. We'll get a look at the replay. First, what happened to Enzo Benito, and then we'll follow it all the way down into the chicane, because that was a bit of action. That is not what you want to see this early in the race.
Yeah, it looked like a little bit of an aggressive move, although I didn't really catch which side. I just saw some side-by-side. So we've got the Biela car, Danny Algabay, just ahead. Oh, sorry, not Danny Algabay. That's an aggressive dive. He did lose the rear end a little bit, did Enzo Benito, but... Yeah, I'm not so sure about that one.
Yeah, that was a... we saw Enzo Benito make a bit of a stand last week. Let's not forget that one as well. Guess who was at the losing end of that one? Poor Phil Denez and BS competition in the VCO Esport Racing World Cup. Then watch this, though. That's Biela. Sorry, excuse me. I thought that might have been Premislav Lemonek, but he's the one who wins in this situation. What happens then to the Apex Academy car?
Oh, is it Alexander Thebe into the rear end of the Valkyrie, potentially?
Is it? Well, here's another look. Yes, no, there does look to be a bit of contact. Let's see if we can jump on board with Alexander Thebe and run our way down into the chicane then.
Yeah, it's a bit, like I say, this is a bit messy, so I feel bad for basically anyone involved in this scenario. Obviously, it was Michael Newmeyer, I believe, in the Biela car, who was just trying to get back up some of the positions that he lost courtesy of that dive.
Was he already loose?
There was definite contact. I just wasn't sure which one it came from. It must have been then from the Apex Academy car. There was a definite jump of the car.
Yes.
As it had left the corner. So there was absolutely contact at some point in there. It's just not really clear. Thing is, in the contact, obviously we don't have race stewards, so much so, like really looking over everything with a fine-tooth comb. But that would be one where I'd be like, if honestly, if we were doing this properly, I'd say that's a racing incident.
And remember, it's not just the points up for grab. It's $4,200 for each of the races. Totals $42,000 in our regular season, and of course we paid out over $100,000 across other platforms in BMW Sim Live last year. Cannot wait to see what 2022 will hold in store for us. Battle at the front, though. They're just being smart, not really what we're seeing back in the pack. Alejandro Sanchez launches it down the inside of Enzo Benito, gets that car slowed down in time, and opens the door for Michael Newmeyer to try and make it too wide down in the final corner.
Yeah, to be fair for Newmeyer, is not really fancying waiting around after being shoved off by Enzo Benito a bit earlier on. So nice little move, very tidy to get to the inside. Aggressive. These lot are driving with elbows out right now, and I will correct myself. By the way, we do have race control, keeping our eye on everything. Penalties will only be applied to the top 10. I do remember that one actually from Daytona. Now that I say it out loud, penalties will only be applied to those that finish inside the top 10 because those are the points-paying finishes, and so it kind of makes sense that they're the ones that are sort of under a bit more scrutiny. But it is those kind of things you do need a little bit of an eye over everything.
Yep, and we didn't have anything to be investigated last time out. I don't think that's going to be the case after 2 hours here, based on what we've seen so far. We're not even, we're just past 15 minutes into this race.
We're still early doors. To be fair, typically when we've been racing at Road Atlanta, now the 2 times that we've been racing, or at least however many times we've been racing in the series at Road Atlanta, and when it was the 120, and then of course last season in the BMW SIM GT Cup, both times we went racing, it was in the M8. This is the first time in this series that we've brought the M4 to Road Atlanta, so we're kind of seeing the slight difference in dynamic. Typically we see genuinely people sitting single file and saving the fuel. Not what we're getting today, and to be fair, I'm glad for it. I'll say that.
I do like this M4. We've been talking about it for a while. It's stable. It's got this hint of understeer, which encourages you to push it, and that's something that we're not just talking about as commentators, because let's be honest, there's a reason we're commentating. It's because we can't drive. But our own producer at RaceSpot, Tyler Maxon, got to drive this BMW M4 at the Dubai 24 Hours as part of Samantha Tanner Racing, the first proper 24-hour race as a homologated car, because I have to be technical there. I got told off by Paul Smith and Peter Mackay for telling them that Sebring last year in the Creventic Endurance Series was actually the first 24 hours. That was not when it was homologated, so they're right. The first homologated run for the car was at Dubai, and he loved it. He did about 6 hours or so, was pushing to the max, and if not for an issue at the start, which meant they couldn't take to the green flag the way that they would have wanted to, they dropped 2 laps and were not in contention for class honors. A bit of a move indicated by Enzo Benito, a bit of a move indicated further back, I think, from R8G. On R8G, Andre Melcher's potentially thinking he might get past Florian Labigra. Top 9, still in a pack, 2.5 seconds separates those 9. Alejandro Sanchez is starting to run away from Michael Neumeyers. Up the hill they'll climb in towards turn number 3. And let's just sing the praises of Alejandro Sanchez very quickly here, because he didn't get it done in qualifying, but once that disappointment settles, you can't do anything, Lewis, except look forward, and that is exactly what he has done. He is +7 so far this race, and think about what happened last time. If not for that one mistake, that one slide in pit lane, Redline were in contention for winning at Daytona.
Yeah, they really could have contended. They had the pace, absolutely, to fight at the front. And Alejandro Sanchez, what a signing for Apex. I'm sure MSI might be a little bit irritated to have lost such a talent, but that's how it goes in sim racing and in racing, in motorsport, everything, in any form of sport. If you've got talent, people want it. And Alejandro Sanchez certainly does have that. This is the thing, is, like I say, has made the progress up in the 10th spot. Certainly not out of chance of victory, because like I said before about the group ahead, they will slow down, they'll trip over each other just a little bit, and every time they do so, it just allows Alejandro Sanchez a little bit closer into that slipstream, into getting pulled along by that top group, and it is getting closer and closer, that gap, especially eased by the fact that not only that, he's pulling away from the Biela Racing team car directly behind. We focus on Zenith at the rear end. You can see there, fastest lap of the race, obviously Alejandro Sanchez.
It wasn't last time around, I believe. He was a 1:18.795 last time by. Fastest lap is a 1:18.365. Pace is dropping off, and we haven't really talked about weather conditions, so let's do that now. Look at how warm it is on the track. 20 degrees in the air, relatively cool, but that's a typical Georgia summer day. 47 degrees. The track is well and truly being baked with no cloud cover above, and it might only get warmer as we get towards about 2 p.m. here in our virtual Brazelton, Georgia. Down in towards the chicane once more. I think that might be Lasse back, who's right on the rear of Chris Lollop. Excuse me, no, that's the other way around. Of course, Fira relatively new in terms of the team, but the drivers very familiar to those who have watched any top-level iRacing action over the recent couple of years. Lasse back now has a rear view mirror filled with Chris Lollum, who will look to the inside through turn number 1, trying to use that camber to just get into the corner a little bit more aggressive. Not going to be able to get the move done. All this will do, though, is give the opportunity for the top 2 to run away.
I think it's not an unwise decision from Chris Lollum, because what he's trying to do is, whilst the Fira car of Lasse back has the slipstream of the 2 cars ahead, he can't do anything. He really can't do anything about this battle. However, all he's trying to do is trying to pull Lasse back off of the top 2, because he knows that he can catch that back up, especially with a bit of team communication to Luke Bennett. Might be able to just be like, right, slow down a little bit so we can get back into that train. But if he can just remove Lasse back from that train, or at least away from the slipstream of the BS competition car, that opens him up to then actually completing the move. Quite smart, bit of lap traffic up ahead, by the way, in the Ignium Motorsport car. So we're already seeing a couple of cars going a lap down. The wannabe SRT Black car is already a lap down in this race. And we did wonder how long it was going to take, and the answer to that question is not very long. Obviously, some of these cars have had quite a large amount of issues in the starting of this race.
Bit of side-by-side back as BS Turner, I think, have gotten passed by Full Time. No, they're able to stay in front. You've got the Taco Yellow on one side. You've got the Zebra on the other side. Of course, the livery that we've seen in action in Real World Motorsports. Here comes Gustavo Ariel on Felix Quirnbach, and he will usher Quirnbach off the road. And the number 96 car goes for some rally crossing action and loses out a whole heap of time and a whole heap of positions.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I was thinking about that one. There wasn't contact, and I don't think, to be honest, I think it was Kernbach trying to be a bit too polite and driving off the track a little bit there. Not 100% sure. Either way, I was about to start ripping into the full-time esports car, by the way, because I was about to say, oh, this core livery is not very good again, is it?
Oh, wow. I see where we're going.
Yeah, exactly.
There was contact. There is contact. I heard it.
Yeah, there was definitely contact, but to be fair, at that point, and this is not me trying to be like the it's my corner and all that rubbish.
Whoa, Lewis McLeod, corner
let's be honest. Does the 9 car miss the apex? Does it drift out too wide? No, I don't think that's anything on Gustavo Aerial. I think that's a fine move.
Let's see if we can pick up a better viewpoint, maybe from the Fire Sim Sport car. Gustavo Aerial.
Bold.
Yeah. Oh. I think maybe Kernbach is just turning in a bit too early there, given that Aerial has made the dive.
Agree. I think that he's trying to cut back in line and has mistimed it a little bit. He's trying to jump back in behind Gustavo Aerial. Gustavo Aerial, by the way, another one of those drivers that finished inside the top 10 at the last round at Daytona with a 9th place finish alongside Bruno De Carmo. Obviously wants to get on with us a little bit, as this has not started out in the great way, but for me, that move is aggressive. I'd be irritated if I was Kernbach, I'll tell you that. I'd be like, oh, look at this, various expletives. I wouldn't be happy, but realistically speaking, I don't think there was anything wrong with that move.
Have you noticed? Have you noticed?
No.
We've got
there's been a couple of switches, but
no, we've got a party. We have 20 cars split by 6 and a bit seconds now, as I think Elvis Rankin has just bullied his way past Andreas Jochimsen in the Fire Sim Sport number 6 machine. But the top 20, other than now Rankin having bullied his way past, all separate. Oh! Change for the lead. What has Luke Bennett done? Has he gotten swarmed? Dinez takes the point. Bennett might lose out a couple more positions. Here comes his teammate Lullum to the inside.
Yeah, Ding Ding Freight Trains coming into the station as he is dropping down the order. Apex as well. Got to be careful here, Bennett. Oh, straight off the track. He's been pushed off by the 99. You've got to watch out for it. There's another one. Gova comes through in the 707. Can finally get back into line. 3 corners ticked off, 6 places lost.
I'm trying to figure out if there was a slowdown penalty, because that's the only reason that I can think of that Bennett would have dropped back that far.
I mean, I think, I haven't seen, so I don't really know. If there was a slowdown penalty, it would have been through the chicane, but I thought it might have got dealt with.
No. You can get one here as well. Does he turn into aggressively? No, he looks fine. He looks fine. Doesn't get on the
okay to me.
Doesn't get on the grass either, so it's not as though he's checking his momentum up coming onto the straight. What is he doing? Is he trying to play the fuel game, and is it just completely backfired on him?
I think Dinez might have just got bored of being sat behind this red line car and goes for a move, and obviously the Firer comes through as well. We'll have a wait. Oh no, that was fuel games or something, because he slows down right in the middle.
I think he tried to let one go past and then didn't realize that by letting one go past it would be a lot more. Firer take the lead and contact with Dinez. My oh my, and watch for the rejoin here as well. It is really starting to intensify, and Lasse back has been shoved back to 4th.
Yeah, this is getting a little bit elbows out. This could end in tears for quite a few of them, as they're still side-by-side, MSI and Kova. And also watch out for the Zenith eSports car to the inside of MSI. There could be a little bit of a brush here, but everyone's staying nice and clean right now. We are side-by-side up the hill towards turn 3.
Zenith has the inside line, but if MSI can stick it, no they can't. They'll be ushered off into the grass as well. It is really starting to pick up. Enzo Benito, what has happened to Red Line? Oh my word! Oh my word! Can you believe it? We are not even half an hour into this race. Biela's gone, Benito is gone, and just like that, it all changes.
This is what happens when you've got a train like this. Is it's all looking great. It's happened at Daytona. It's all looking great, all looking like a great battle, and then suddenly, bam, out of nowhere, it all comes to a close. Alexander Thebe down the inside of R8G, just a bit further down. This is in 11th position, so this is for Neil Poix right now. Absolutely nothing on the table as MSI, that number 4, the 120, whatever you want to they're the last car inside the top 10. So they're all squabbling over who's the fastest, and whilst they're doing that, they're all losing time.
They have now lost the draft as well. This is getting me nervous. This is very, very nerve-wracking. Alejandro Sanchez has lost a bit of ground with all of this. He's back in 12th. FIBA behind him in the red line yellow. Then you've got Williams Esports, Chill Blast, and Arthur LeHook. 2.5 seconds now, though. Splits 10th and 11th positions. As look at that, three wide. 3 wide is just not smart at this point in time. These guys need to get the message, calm down, and get to the finish.
Well, it's not even that. It's calm down and look at the gap between P10 and P11. 2 seconds. Look at the gap between P8 and P9. Another 1.5. Focus on the big picture here. Focus on trying to get it. What happened through all of this?
So let's pick up this replay. It's good. Good from Fire. Ooh, Dinez turns in a bit early, and then that causes the stack up through the final corner. It's a little bit cleaner this time around, but of course, all eyes do have to focus on Enzo Benito, because out of turn 3 in towards the S's, it really does all pick up. We'll actually try and, I think, pick up what happens with MSI first, because I think that might have instigated all of the chaos.
It wasn't pretty. I think that's what we can all say. From all of that. Here's the side-by-side then running through. Zenith squeezes off MSI a little bit there. Yep, fair enough.
Oh.
I mean, that's not an easy angle to pick it out from.
Oh, God.
And there's a straight DQ for Fire as well as they get launched to the moon.
Yeah, that was straight DQ. You're right, Andreas Joachimsen.
Oh, that is Benito.
That is on the red line car, isn't it?
Oh, and that is also, I mean, I get it, you're out of control a little bit, but that is a hideous rejoin. But whether you can say he was in control or not, obviously definitely wasn't, but, you know, at least maybe could have done a bit more on the brake holding point of view. Either way, that was an enormous disaster for more than one team. I think we can put it that way.
Yes. No, I mean, we talked about 3 red line cars in the top 10. We're down to 2 still running, let alone just inside the top 10. Yeah,
well, I will say the 11th. I think they've figured it out. This little train here. They've started to sort things, because you can see this trains are looking a little bit more organised as they're heading over. It's kind of a bit like sort of pack racing and stuff. At Daytona, in super speedway racing, when you get the lines and they're not organised, they're disorganised, they're a bit all over the place, they're a bit messy. Suddenly that's when gaps and stuff start appearing, and that's why the high line might not work. Kind of think of it in this sense. We've got 2 different trains here. You've got 1st to 10th and then 11th to everyone else. If one train works better than the other, then that's the train that's going to go faster, obviously. It sounds kind of obvious, but that is true. It's not as bad as what I said yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as obvious as what you said. The gap's either going to increase, decrease, or stay the same.
They say, yeah, great line.
Great line.
Genuinely number 1 commentary moment.
You're talking to the 2020 VCO Simi winner, Lewis McLeod.
Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing.
Captain
This is why
Obvious.
You stole the award from me. Yeah, so, I get it. Too many obvious things, and it's like, wow, this guy does not know what he's talking about. Either way, that train though, 11th down, is genuinely catching this group.
It will, and I think now it really will. It's not like again, we don't need to fuel save to make it to the hour. We probably want to fuel save to put the cars in a good position heading to the end. Once again on board with Johan Harth as we look on with his onboard look as well, looking cool, calm, and collected. It's more than I can say for some of the drivers in this race now.
Yeah, I think
toasted.
I think some people are either toasted or they're very sweaty at the moment as they're having to work very hard. But this is the thing, with it being a sort of bit fuel mileagey, it means that those sat behind a little bit, like a little bit further off the train, they can burn a little bit more fuel. The 98 Alejandro Sanchez does get past the R8G in that 2nd train from 11th down. We know Alejandro Sanchez's pace, so I don't think that's necessarily the worst move in the world for that grouping, but Thibaut Casamon's not exactly a slouch himself, so read into that what you will. Alejandro Sanchez, they back up into 11th spot, and I'd still say victory is not out of the question for that car.
No,
not yet.
Imagine if we get more chaos.
Yeah, exactly, and I don't think we are done with the chaos today.
I'm glad I didn't ask you for a prediction.
I would have said BS.
Would you?
I would have, yeah.
Well,
we can call that as a prediction. An hour and a half to go.
No, are we saying that you just put the commentator's curse down on them?
Yeah.
Well, we know who to blame. Florian Hasper, just get on the phone. Get on the phone to your man.
That's true. I will say, obviously, one thing that we do need to say, and it is a good point about BS competition, is that there is one very big question, which was what happened down into chicane between Phil Dinez and Lasseback, which again, far be it from me. I kind of feel like it was maybe a bit more on Phil Denez trying to misjudge like where his turn across, whether you can say it was the most heinous of crime, I don't really know, but it wasn't ideal.
Well, race control will take a look. Suboptimal, you love that phrase. Move as I think Luke Bennett has gotten back past Kova and Tumis Tatala as he tries to bounce his way back up. Arthur LaHook has gone and past Alexander Thieber, so a couple of moves into the chicane this most recent time by. Officially more than halfway into this first stint of the race, and remember, driver change halfway through. We're expecting left side tires only to be taken in the pit cycle.
Anyone going to be brave? Anyone going to be really brave? I don't think you need to, because time-wise you don't actually gain that much, is why we tend to see just 2. But is anyone going to be brave and take none? From memory from last season, from like the second season of 2021, I don't think anyone really outside of the first round took no tyres because there wasn't enough of a payoff, because the stationary time, because obviously your fuel fill rate and stuff as well, you only really gain maybe a couple of seconds, if that.
Yes.
So there's no significant advantage from doing so, if any at all. But I still, you never know. Sometimes you like to see some teams roll all the dice and see what happens.
MSI and Denny Elgube 1.3 back from 8th position, so has a bit of work to do to try and close, but not out of the mix. Looks like Thieber might lose another position here. Loses 1 to Florian Lebigre, the second R8G car, unable to get the up and under working as we jump on board with Andre Melchers down the hill as Thieber now looks to try and get past Lebigre as they come in through the final corner.
Yeah, and obviously splits happening even in this train as Alejandro Sanchez at the front of it is just pulling this train apart, and you can see the large gap there between the R8G Esports of Thibaut Casabon and Arthur LaHook in 13th position, so big gaps starting to form as, to be perfectly honest, Alejandro Sanchez is dragging that Apex Racing team and the R8G with him up to the train. Just 1.2 seconds now, the distance between Alejandro Sanchez. There is no fuel saving happening within this Apex Racing team car at all.
Not entirely shocked by that. Let's put it that way.
He's got to risk it to get in contention.
Yes. And the worst case is he tries to do the undercut and, hopefully he doesn't get put back into traffic. I think that will be what he is hoping for. The recovery for Luke Bennett continues. Is he going to have a look to the there's damage on
quite a bit.
Yeah, and that would be from the hit with Phil Denez, but doesn't seem to be compromising Lasse back too much, at least for the time being. Question will be, later in this race, what will the lasting impact be? Might there be a couple of seconds of repairs needed on that number 2 for Fire Sim Sport? There's some fighting back in the pack as well. Don't think that these cars, even though they're out of contention, are going to lie down and let this one go. Michael Yanni gets past the very beaten and battered number 5 of Ricardo Rico. We did see at a moment in the early stages of this race, at least he is still out there and circling. Look at this, though, in towards turn number 3 at the top of the hill. Andre Melchers just about being safe enough and not being railroaded off into the grass, but he's lost 1, he's lost 2, and after looking like he might be fighting for 15th position, he's now sitting back in 19th.
Well said, because this is an official race, so you still gain and lose I rating.
And
right?
safety rating, yes.
And safety rating, of course. Now, Max Benecke didn't drive, so he won't lose any safety rating. So
he won't lose any I rating as well, if that was your question.
I was going to say, is he going to drop some? No, all right. I want drama. Oh, goodness.
Oh, and it's BS Turner once more. I'm sorry, tacos, but it won't be victory tacos. It will be commiseration tacos in the camp right now. Johan Harth has been passed by Lasse back at the front of the field. It's all intensifying once more.
Yeah, I asked for drama, and then suddenly BS Turner went backwards. Sorry, Florian, and that lot. That was not my intention. Again, I don't believe in the commentators, guys. We'll do this. Either way, BS competition still continues to lead. Zenith was the one that was taking a look. I've noticed a few people taking a bit of a risk with their turn-in, by the way, to T1, of going over the grass on the left-hand side. Because the thing is yes, you're on the grass, but there is a bit of tarmac straight after that where you can use that to turn in. Problem is, it's quite risky, because if you turn in a bit too early whilst you're on the grass, the car's going in a very, very straight line indeed. BS Turner, yeah, that was not pretty.
That's with the full send racing car, which, to be fair, is not going full send there. See if we can get a better angle from up above. Again, this is not a 90-degree corner. It's angled a little bit more, and I think BS Turner
Turner washes out.
Yeah, and just assumes that the car's going to let them have the corner there.
Yeah, if you're going to put out on either one of them, it would more so be on the BS Turner car for just kind of basically driving straight out to the exit of the corner, which in some sports would be absolutely fine because apparently it's their corner. In this one, less so. You still got to respect your competitor.
That was a jink. That was a jink, but at least for now, nothing happening as a result. Sanchez has caught the back of this pack. It's now 11 cars, 1.8 back to 12th, and Thibaut Casabon 1.7 back to the other RAG machine of Florian Lebigre, who is being hunted down by Arthur Lehook as well as as Alexander Thieber. 47 took to the green. We're down to just 40 out there and running.
And are we down to just 11 in contention? That's the real question for me. Is it just these 11? Is that 2-second gap back to Thibaut Casabon slightly too big to potentially drag a 12th car into this? Are we down to our real contenders? We've got a couple of red lines in there, a couple of Covers. Of course, Covers in contention in a race like this. Of course they are. A couple of R8Gs as well. But the thing is that I'm seeing there's no real big train, and there's not many cars which are quite close, which is, of course, what we saw back in Daytona when Redline were in control of the top. It's because they had two cars up there, with Apex getting involved as, trying to fight from Alejandro Sanchez with a couple of cars as well. But this time, there isn't really, in this train, anywhere where there's two teammates that can actually work together. We've got plenty of duos, but not really any assistance.
Yeah, it's not looking like a two. We were talking about one-on-one at Russ yesterday, rather last week with Luke Crane. There's not going to be a 2-on-2 this time by. Right. It is very much every man for themselves at the front. Red line green, red line blue. Can they work together? I think not with how this race has gone. I'd say the same for Kova. RAG are slowly coming on strong. I tell you what, let's give them full credit. 3 cars just on the edge of the top 10. Might they be able to work their way forward as we head into the pit stop cycle? There you can see movers and shakers. 1, 2, and 3 for 1, 2, and 3 in terms of positions gained. Then you've got the likes of RAG in the 88 car. They're up 13. The 197, they're up an incredible 15 positions, really just taking advantage of some chaos, some carnage, and surviving what we've seen here at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Of course, big losers, Biela Racing Teams, Team Redline, the big shock as well. Redline red. For Max Benecke, what's he thinking at this point, Lewis? I mean, we're 2 races into this season, and the points are structured in such a way that I do think you could miss 3 races and still make it happen. 2 moves as Bennett to the inside as well as Iago Martinez in that Zenith car. But the points are structured in a way that I do think that you could make it to Sim Live even if you miss 4, 5 races.
And that's the thing, is it's not about winning this championship. That's the really critical thing. It's about being in contention. Oh, look at the move at the front as Team Redline Blue make that move. Chris Lullum hits the front of the race. Phil Denez did not fight that one too hard into the run-in of T1. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about getting to BMW Sim Live. If you've missed a few races, why even the likes of Coand, whoever they do appear at any point in the season, those being missing from these couple of races, I'm not too concerned for any of those teams that are doing so. And for Benecke and Holzman, had a bad couple of rounds, fair enough. Honestly, 3 or 4 consecutive podiums in this, you are genuinely right back into contention to going to BMW Sim Live, despite having 2 pretty foul races to start the season. It's certainly not over. That's why we're doing it like this year. And
I mean, the hope, of course, is that this year, like it was in the first edition of BMW Sim Live, it will be in person, where you'll have the drivers on site. Lewis and I will be on site, hopefully with some custom M8s.
Yeah, and I was going to say also some pins, but I think the M8's a bit more. And I'd rather an M8 than a pin, if I'm honest. Although the pins are quite nice.
Yeah, we're getting some RaceSpot pins as well.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for your service, I think was what Luke said to you after seeing your couple of pins the other day.
That's true. Oh.
It did make me chuckle. That was good.
It did. Oh, what fun we had during the Esports Racing World Cup. I mean, 3 different platforms, 3 different days, 5 drivers, and you had to pick which 3 you wanted to put forward. Or is there a car off? There's not just a car off. That's a battered, beaten BMW M4.
Yeah, that has gone into the barrier quite hard. A reminder, by the way, for anyone concerned about some of the cars with damage, I think it is critical to note
Fast repair.
that they do have a fast repair in this race, so they can do that. Now, obviously, you don't want to, because if you come into the pit lane now to go and serve it and get your fast repair, that's really no good. You really want to serve the fast repair.
Oh, he's going to get tagged.
Pit stop.
He's going to get tagged, yep.
Complete misjudgment there on
RHG,
on the RHG's point, yeah.
Yep. Look rearwards and you'll just see that's contact. That's contact.
I get what they were trying to do. I really do. It's trying to go for that last minute move, but that is really not how you want to do that. And that's not pretty. I think there would be a little bit of beef between Fire and RHG after that one.
Yeah, and sometimes we talk about there being air between cars. No air there.
Nowhere there. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. That was just a complete misjudgment from the RHG driver. Which, when you're in Fire's position, if I get the feeling that you're kind of like, you're keeping your eye on this car. You know, I've had this before. You keep your eye on the car closing behind. You're thinking, right, you're going to go for a move at turn one. Just get on with it. And it's like, oh, it's just taking me out. Oh, good. That was nice. That was top tier. Top tier banter. And yeah, it's just. It's not pretty. Either way, I don't know if Chris Lullum has got to the front and decided I don't really like this fuel saving rubbish, because he's started to
picked up
again,
the pace.
The pace is increasing.
We were doing low 119s, maybe mid 119s at points. We're down to 118, 5, 6, 7 last time by. Not far off the fastest lap of the race.
I wonder if we're going faster even still on this lap. We're still 15 minutes away from the really early point to the pit stop, so that we know a lot of these teams will be going a little bit further into the race. Potentially an hour and 5 was what we were seeing from some Daytona. A couple of laps over the hour mark for 2 reasons. Number one, most importantly, a bit of safety. And number 2, put less fuel in it. Apex, by the way, Alejandro Sanchez making the move on Danny Algabay and past MSI Esports. He might have gone past thinking, that livery looks quite good. Yep, see ya.
Former teammates become rivals now, although I don't think Danny Algabay would have fought that one too hard, knowing that all he could do is lose track of the cars in front. And speaking of losing track, has Lasse Bak made a mistake, because he's not just feeling the pressure from Luke Bennett, who is trying to drive his way back to the front, but he's lost about a full second now to Phil Denez.
Yeah, there's a bit of a disparity on what has happened through the first sector. It certainly isn't major on pace, because the last laps was only, obviously this is just based on their overall pace. From Chris Lullum, it was an 18.6. From
another mistake.
It was an 18.9. So
another mistake, and it's opened the door to Luke Bennett, who will take full advantage, slots down the inside, and will it be the freight train being applied to Lasse Bak this time through? Iago Martinez, Johan Hart, they're lurking in the background as well. They'll be 2 wide, 2 deep. They almost think about 3 wide there. Johan Hart gives the push to Team Redline Green, and Luke Bennett will sweep around the outside. That was air. That was air.
That was a substantial amount of air, and that was really unfortunate for Lasse Bak. Definitely didn't deserve that. Was potentially just trying to get back in line and stop the run from Redline Blue and BS Competition. Of course, Chris Lullum now really is starting to fire up the speed, but that was rough.
Yeah, and I mean, you think now, that's not 1 but 2 bits of contact. At one point, Lasse Bak leads this race, and now turned around and into the gravel. Lasse Bak has dropped now to 19th position. Good rejoin there. I say that though, that was close. Yep. But that's probably as good as you could have hoped for.
To be fair, I understand. Like, you've got to think about it from their point of view. It's just like, I need to get on with this right now. I need to get back into this race somehow. Unfortunately, losing all of that time and stuff. Lasse Bak down into 19th position. I don't know what's possible from there.
You know what this means, though? 2-car breakaway.
Yeah, and it really is quite substantial. The pace at the moment from Chris Lullum, he's seen that instant and has been like, right, okay, let's work together, let's check out from this. Last lap time was an 18.6 from the pair of them, obviously 1.5 seconds faster than that group behind for obvious reasons. The really important thing is, what is this pace? What is the lap going to be this time by between these two and the chasing pack?
It was a 6.93 last time for Chris Lullum. It's a 6.97, so he's still on the pace. About 100th or so faster than the car right behind him, so it's not like Dinez is being left behind. I would not be shocked if Dinez is still doing some fuel saving at this point. Maybe using that clutch to just enter into the corners, roll the momentum just through that a little bit more effectively. And now, can Bennett, can Harth, can Iago Martinez and company close up the 2-second deficit that they find themselves with? We're only about 10 minutes away from pit stops, more lap traffic on the horizon.
Yeah, it's not too major, nothing too big, and obviously with it being here, hopefully they'll clear them, at least from their point of view, they'll clear them before they get to the final corner. Although, to be fair, the Ignium car and its German sim racing, again, two cars have not had a good start to the day. Obviously, Ignium are going to be focused on trying to make that move. Blue flags are out, but they're not really forced to the point of, like, get out of the way. It's more
not
of
F1.
A note. Yeah.
They are advisory. They are... It is the onus is still on the faster cars, the cars doing the lapping, to work their way through safely. And I tell you what, they're not catching the traffic in the ideal situation up into the S's. It's not where you want to really be doing any passing, and Ignium Motorsports is not going to play nice here. Moved, by the way, Danny Elgube working his way through with Alejandro Sanchez, as Matti Siepola has now dropped down into 9th position, down 2 from where he qualified. The gap is coming down, 1.6 and closing all the way through the S's. Chris Lullum could do nothing.
No, right now they are going to be losing time, but it's nothing too major. Remember that all of the train behind, they're going to have to catch the back markers as well, so less so the whole traffic giver thing than we see when it's prototypes and stuff going through traffic. It's obviously a very different dynamic, but realistically speaking, any time lost potentially is going to be lost to that train behind. And to be fair for Chris Lullum, I don't think he wants the train to catch from behind for obvious reasons. It's lowers his chances of victory here this afternoon. But at least at the head of that train, it is a teammate. It is Luke Bennett in that red line green car.
Yep. Red line still in a good position, but again, 2 of their cars have dropped out. Enzo Benito in dramatic fashion with the Biela racing car on the entry down into the S's. The Patrick Holtzman Maximilian Badeke 71 car not even really surviving lap number 1. How things change here in the BMW SIM GT Cup. 1.3 seconds now, that deficit. It was 1:19.302 for Chris Lullum last time by. The reality of the situation is as well, you cannot afford to let, even if it's your teammate, catch back up, because you're letting other people come on closer. Bit of separation between 4th and 5th as lights flash from Tumas Tassler. He wants to get the hurry on.
Yeah, it's other people in this train that's the concern.
I'm sure if Sanchez was that by himself.
That was one of the cars I was really going to talk about in this, about one of those real contenders, and has to wait so long to get back on with it in this race. Here comes Luke Bennett getting past the Ignium Motorsport car. The car that's going a lap down as the top 2 cleared German sim racing. So that wasn't too bad, and like you say, the gap's hovering around 1.3 seconds as there is a little bit of assistance from Slipstream. Is this Sanchez by himself? It is!
Grass!
Oh, critical error.
On the grass, and well, I feel bad for saying it like this. 2 races, 2 mistakes for Alejandro Sanchez. They are minor mistakes, yes, but at this level, a minor mistake becomes a huge mistake just like that.
That's a shame. I mean, obviously this is the second consecutive round where we've seen a mistake from Alejandro Sanchez. That one, you get it, but it's like that's so easy to do. Anyone who's done laps around Road Atlanta has absolutely done something very, very similar to that into that corner. I mean, you're trying to widen the corner so much, and when you have the disparity of grip between left to right, but not only left to right, I've said this before, it's when you have part of the tyre on the grass and part of the tyre on the concrete. So you've got a disparity on grip from left to right of that single tyre. That's where you have the spin. That's where it always comes.
I've done it more times than I can count.
Yeah.
But
well, I don't race Red Atlanta.
Yes, but it's also why I'm not an Apex Racing Team driver. And again, I hate to put it that way. I really do. But at this level, you cannot afford to be making mistakes like that.
Yeah, like you say, it's a shame, but when you think of how marginal, I mean, I said earlier about their line into turn one with how much they're taking. They're using a little bit of the grass to get onto that other bit of concrete to then turn it. That's how much of the circuit they're using. They're using what is available and then even a little bit beyond. Because, of course, if you could do that in real life, they would be doing it in real life because you're taking, basically as many liberties as you can actually get away with because that's the fastest line. You're taking the line of least resistance and, you've got to take risks. For Alejandro Sanchez, though, especially when you're in a new team, especially when you're trying to drag yourself into contention for a title like this, yeah, that's a costly mistake. Very, very costly, and I'm sure Apex will be a little bit disappointed in what happened.
Watch what happens here with German sim racing. Remember, they are in the midst of being lapped by the field. They have an issue through turn one, and they do the smart thing. They stay as wide as they can and then use that little chicane to avoid getting into the wars. I think they're playing bumper cars now between Johan Hart and Luke Bennett. I heard a big old crunch.
I think they might be playing a bit of bumper cars between BS Competition and Team Redline Blue, i.e. with the bump drafting, with the assistants, just trying to work together because where we went from 47 cars, obviously at the start of the race being a contentious victory because basically anyone can win it, is what it is, then went down to 20, then it really went down to 11, and now we're realistically down to 4. Now with that gap coming down, I think this is where Phil Denez kind of concedes trying to push Chris Lullum any further because now it's about saving fuel, now it's about extending that pit stop window because those two behind, they're there, they are right there.
Yep. Some really fascinating stuff happening on the track as we'll pick up the battle as well between Zenith and Kova. We talked about Kova's victory here with the BMW M8 when the fuel-saving games were being played. Kova ran away at the front, never looked back, and by the time that they started fuel-saving, it didn't matter. They could do the fuel-saving and make sure they controlled the lead of the race. Down into the chicane they'll come. Might be a move forthcoming just behind the Kova car with MSI. Yep, no, look, no, that's just lap traffic playing more of a factor. That's the Ignium Motorsports car that is doing a great job to avoid checking up too much momentum. As I said that, did they just get spun into oblivion?
You had to say it, didn't you? You literally had to say it.
Commentator's curse. You don't believe in it,
No,
huh?
I don't believe in it. I only believe in bad driving. You can do this.
Well, let's see if it was bad driving. Let's see if it was something else. Because they were doing a good job. They were really doing a good job of letting the traffic flow around them, which is important. And in a race like this, much more difficult than it sounds. So they let by all but one. And they're trying to find the hole. And that's R8G spinning them around. Is it the same R8G car that spun around which car am I thinking of now? The Fire car.
Yeah, it was the number 8 R8G that did the work on that. I'm not sure. I think it might have been the number 8, but you can tell there was a little bit of air between them again. Not much. There was going to be contact anyway, so that was a kind of a moot point. It was the R8G kind of getting a little bit sort of like, I need to get through right now, because obviously feeling that train's going to run away, I'm sure Ignium would have gotten over to one side, but in my opinion, not great driving on the R8G's point of view. So yes, not the commentator's case. See?
I believe in
digging myself into a hole with a lot of these drivers. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it's probably better to believe in the commentator's curse than to irritate those that are going to feed you information.
That is true. That is true. But at the same time, it's a bit more funny this way, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That is
Poor
true.
guys.
Let's look forward then as we kind of get into that pit stop window. Will Lullum be one of the first to pit? I would assume so. I would suspect that Phil Denez, out of the top four, might be the last to come in pit.
Yeah, it looks like has been saving quite a lot of fuel. I think the Team Redline Green and potentially even the Apex Racing Team 99 have burnt a lot of fuel in the sense of trying to catch the top two and successfully catch the top two. Now they can sort of turn it down a little bit and just save whatever fuel they can do on the run to the checkers. The Zenith, to be fair, hadn't even really picked up on it too much. That Zenith car which I did think was the German sim racing car a lap down, they're doing really well to keep to kind of close that gap once more. They'll be in a bit earlier, but obviously they're working with Kova here a little bit to close that gap down. Certainly not out of it, especially if they get the undercut right or overcut, whatever they can do to pit at a slightly different time and make sure they don't miss their box in pit lane. They are certainly not out of this.
That's the crucial thing as well. You said it there. Don't miss your box. Much easier than it sounds.
Yeah, ask Alejandro Sanchez, who unfortunately...
Poor Alejandro. We are just throwing him under the bus.
We are ripping it. Did, honestly, one of the best stints that I've seen at Daytona. It was absolutely superb.
It was flawless. It was flawless.
With two red line cars. It's just him versus two red lines that were working together. Obviously got a bit of assistance from his teammate as well. But realistically, it was him versus them. Comes into the pit lane, really in contention for race victory, misses his box, and it is honestly heartbreaking.
It was flawless. I will maintain that was a flawless run until seconds before he gets out of the car.
Was that commentator's guess?
No, I didn't say it was flawless then. I'm saying it now.
I see, yeah, just saying.
I mean, if Alejandro Sanchez wants to blame me, I'm not going to complain. We have been saying
Would you not complain?
No, we've been saying some rather nice things about him.
That's a good point. Yeah, so what, we counteract it with overwhelming positivity.
Yes, we got to balance out. Negativity, positivity in equal measure.
It all works. Yeah, gotcha. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Oh, yeah. Bennett's in.
Yeah, I was wondering who was going to come in right now because we're about the hour point. So this is a few people coming in a little bit earlier than we would expect, maybe.
Yep, it is. Bennett's followed in by the likes of Elvis Rankin, Iago Martinez, Alexander Thieber, Gustavo Ariel, Ricardo Ferreira. So it's going to be busy. Going to be busy down on the pit lane. The question is, of course, going to be tires. How many tires? How long do they stop? Etc., etc., etc. But at least for now, things slow down for the Team Redline red car. When do we think we might see Redline Blue and BS Competition come in?
It's whether they... Oh, that is very late in the box there from Luke Bennett, just about on there. Obviously, the final box in pit lane, the last one along after taking that pole position. It's about when they react at the top. Are they going to feel we need to go and cover that off? Or do they think they might be able to build a little bit of pace and see if they get stuck in traffic? Because look at Chris Lullen, right? Look at all of that beautiful clean air that is ahead of Chris Lullen. It's a perfect track. If you pit, there's no guarantee that that is what you're going to see on the other end of it. So you kind of want to push the pit. He's coming in pit lane, though. And obviously, Phil Denez is going one longer. And Johan Harvey was obviously stuck in the slipstream of Luke Bennett. No surprise to see these two going that little bit longer in this race.
And where is Bennett's teammate coming out of pit lane now? So he's actually going to be just in front of Phil Denez. There you can see him working his way down through the S's. So red line green. Diogo Pinto takes over. 56 seconds stationary in the box. Similar times for the likes of Zenith, red line yellow, the Apex Racing Academy. And this time down on pit lane, it is even busier because you've got the likes of Redline Blue, where Johnny Vecchio is going to jump in. Danny Elgabay is there. Lasse Back will come in along with RAG Kova, RAG and Williams. Plenty of big names down on pit lane.
Yeah, and obviously remember the Team Redline green car, the one that starts as one for pole position. They're second in the championship. When it comes to their fight, Diego Pinto and Luke Bennett, fantastic job last round to grab that second position. A whopping half-tenth, by the way, behind the Team Redline Blue. It was obviously a photo finish. It was staged. But either way, I mean, great little fight there from them in the championship. Whether they're going to get it so easy today to finish second, it's nice to say it's so easy, but I'm sure Phil Denez will be pitting this time by, and I'm pretty sure the Apex is going to follow in as well. Just where they all come out together.
Well, I can tell you as well that as Denez is followed in by Johan Hoff, there is Redline Blue. Did they not take tires? No, they did. It's another 56-second stop, but they were in front of Redline Green and they maintained that advantage, 2 seconds in front.
They weren't 2 seconds in front.
You know, there have been a couple of cars that have risked it for the biscuit, as you'd put it. RAG, Racine Fazui, no tires taken there. He's got the net lead of the race. Full-time esports by TK Bruno De Carmo, who's just in front of Gianni Vecchio, has also decided to go for the risk. No tyres for 2 cars.
Love a risk for a chocolate bisque. You know, it's good fun. It's like you say, you got to see it. I don't think, let's be honest, this full-time esports by TK car is not really going to last too long directly ahead of the blue car. I was going to say Chris Lullen, but obviously it's not Chris Lullen, it's Gianni Vecchio. Shouldn't last too long ahead of Vecchio, straight down the inside going into chicane. I think the thing is the gap wasn't 2 seconds between the blue and the green car, because the green car had closed that up. Luke Bennett had closed up more to the rear end of Chris Lullen, so there is a slightly larger gap. But now we get the answer to the really, really important question: where's BS competition in comparison to Redline Blue? And Apex have closed up massively.
Oh, BS should have it here. BS will have it. Apex will have it as well. Redline Blue, undercut not working out for them. And we've got a new race leader in the form of Rasim Fazui, who is 4.5 seconds clear. We'll have to wait and see the pit lane time here. And discount the Apex Racing Team car, by the way. They came in and I think took their fast repair about 37 laps ago. We should see them into pit lane very, very shortly. But Rainer Talvar leads from Jamie Fluke, Gianni Vecchio, Bruno De Carmo, and Diogo Pinto. Separation behind them.
Yeah, this has got us slightly more interesting with the battling. We've definitely got realistically like 3 here that are quite close. I think that green car's maybe a little bit too far off, but might actually use the full-time esports just to sort of slingshot them back onto the rear end of the blue and then remove themselves from panic stations. The R8G, we've got to keep our eye on the pace. The last lap time wasn't counted, so that's very helpful. We're
this
looking
time by
for
will
to
get
be
the
running
indication.
around 18s, 19s. If they're still running in those kind of pace, then we're on 19.5.
Oh, that is not a good first
That is
lap.
not good.
But, again, it's not about winning anymore, Lewis. It's about points.
Points, correct.
Not an awful call.
At which point, yes, they're going to weigh it up. And always, if you take a risk on strategy, you can't be like, oh, but I didn't win, so the risk wasn't worth it. No, it's about the position that you were when you came into the pit lane, i.e., let's say
where you finished.
7th, 8th, versus where you finish, exactly. And if you're up a couple of positions, then the risk was worth it, because you gained. Simple as that.
Agreed. I very much agree. Take a look on board with Gianni Vecchio, who I do believe has just moved into a new home. You can see, so new that he hasn't even been able to mount the team t-shirts that he's got nicely framed. I do like that. And look at those monitors as well. Those look like some big old monitors.
But the big old monitors, they help because they give you more of a reference. It's not. I know, obviously, then you'll start chatting about whether it's 4K, what's the pixel density, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes it's not so much about that. For me, the 2 most important things, aside of getting a screen that is 1080p or 4K, whatever it is the size, because obviously at least then you can see just slightly more, whether it's in high definition or not. It doesn't really matter. It's more just the size of the object out of your peripheral vision, which you're not seeing in high def anyway. So it's only in your peripheral vision. You just need to see them fly past as you're overtaking everyone on the grid. And then for me, the most important thing though is refresh rate. Getting a monitor which has decent refresh rate, because honestly, sim racing, we're a bit spoiled. 60, not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough in 2022.
I was going to say, do you know much about flying past cars?
No.
Sorry, I had to do it.
Thanks, man.
You set me up too perfectly for that one.
I see.
On board as well with Jamie Fluke, who is again in that Apex Racing Team facility. There you can see one of the rigs behind him. I believe that's Kevin Ellis Jr. Yeah,
it's very clean, isn't it?
It is very clean, but I think that's how you know that they're still moving into it.
It needs a purple carpet.
It doesn't.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Needs a blue carpet, maybe.
You're gonna get in trouble. You are just asking for it. But I do think that the thing that I like about this Apex team facility and the plans that they laid out is their separation between the living spaces and the driving spaces. That's something that I think is really important. We were talking about this yesterday, Lewis, as well. The fact that not having that separation means it's hard for you to take time off and actually disengage from sim racing entirely. And that's what Coanda have now. Yes, they've got the Coanda house. They've got the Coanda esports facility where Dane Warren is going to be competing for the foreseeable future until he can get permission to fly back home.
Yeah, no, I did. It was yesterday. I was like, oh, Dane Warren's still there. I was like, oh, of course he is. Yeah, because he can't go back, poor lad. those are some of the things that you take in sim racing. These are the steps that we're going. I will say with the Apex Racing facility, obviously learning. Mistakes is probably the wrong word, but learning from some of the decisions that teams like Commander have done, tried, experimented, learn from what they do, right, and what you could do better. The thought process with the Apex Racing facility, all jokes aside, is honestly fantastic. Like you say, it's about having the separated workspaces and stuff so that you race here and you work. And now I know Commander, obviously they've got their sim room and stuff, but it's not the same as actually separating things properly and making things a bit more like an office, and genuinely applying the thoughts and taking some experimentation with the layout of the facility. Honestly, looks very, very impressive. I will have to drive down to Corby and have a little look around.
You're in trouble. You're not allowed in Corby.
I know. But sorry, I'll break it. It's fine.
The Apex Racing team has already said you're very rude.
That's true. I am very rude, though. So I think that's not a real surprise to anyone, unfortunately.
That gap, by the way, for Racine Fazui is coming down. It's now only 1.5 seconds. He's been unable to break back into the 118s. And again, we think only left side tires for those drivers that took about a 55-odd second pit stop. You can now see that on the left-hand side of your screen, the pit stop time for the different teams. And again, remember, the Apex Racing Academy 198 car will be down onto pit lane at some point. They're 41 laps into the run. There you can see inside of the top 16, only 2 cars have risked it. And I think if you are full-time esports by TK, it's a risk that is not going to pay off. Now for R8G, a second a lap, give or take, right? Let's paint broad strokes. Let's make it easier. Half a second a lap. Let's be a little bit more generous. Let's say we've got about 40-odd laps still to go. That is a big old time loss. They are going to have to fight to stay inside the top 10.
Yes, it's like the thing that sometimes you just need to take a bit of the risk. I think to again use some. There's Kova straight past full time, and there's Zenith as well. So yeah, it's really not ideal. That was obviously down into the chicane. If what they need to do now is basically just try and sit in the slipstream, but there's quite a few cars that are quite close to getting inside the top 10. You can see the train there is quite long. It's going down a fair way, so their chances of staying inside the top 10 are quite low. If you're R8G, if you're in the 18. I honestly wouldn't even fight that half of the race lead. I genuinely wouldn't. I'd fight a little bit and just try and get into the slipstream and try and hang on one position at a time. For me, I love the gamble. I don't think the gamble is going to work out. I think it's a little bit too much, especially with the pace they're showing in the mid-19s rather than the low. But we always like a good gamble. And if they can stay in that slipstream and use that to sort of hold their pace, they might still finish sort of in the top 6 or 7.
Full-time esports. Outside of the top 10 as it stands. And now off the track as well. Well,
yeah, right. From bad to worse.
They risked it for the I love that phrase. Risked it for the biscuit, and it did
not
work.
Yeah, but you've got to risk it for a chocolate biscuit as well. You've really got to step it up.
Are you a biscuit elitist here?
Well, yeah, but if you say, yeah, I am. Of course I am. You have seen the country I'm from, right?
Fair enough.
If you're risking it for a biscuit, that might just be like a custard cream, which is fine. Don't get me wrong.
No, the reason I bring this up is that there was a great forum. In fact, it's not just a thread. It's now a forum, iRacing forum meme at this point, as Juan Bustamante will take over in the 198.
Nice move.
Oh, yes, that was a nice move, as Reina Talvar will take the lead and is now starting to build some separation back to Jamie Fluke. So this is important for Reina Talvar to try and run away and pull a little bit of an advantage over the chasing pack behind. But the forum meme is about how oatmeal raisin cookies are the best cookies in the world.
Oh. To be fair,
you can't. You're not saying no.
No, I'm not saying no, but the thing is, it's about occasion. It's about what you're doing with the biscuit. Are you dunking it? Are you just eating it by itself? Are you having it with?
Lost it by himself, by the way. To
be fair, this is the problem with obviously not changing tyres. Although to be fair, sometimes you could argue sometimes having the differential on 100%, brand new tyres on the left, old tyres on the right, can cause some more problems. That though is the issue of not changing tyres at all, as the rears don't really like you after an hour and a bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, they're not really fans. I've got to get used to double stinting.
No, you got Bathurst coming up.
Yeah, you got Bathurst next week. Yeah, and we're driving at the M4 as well.
Nice. And the thing about Bathurst that's going to be interesting is of course, the real world date has been pushed back to May, and that's going to be reflected in iRacing. It's going to mean colder conditions, which means tires will just last a little bit longer. Not bad for you.
It is that count.
Oh, look at this. Side by side through the final corner. That's Kevin Ellis Jr. trying to bully Jimmy Antunes for what is 17th position, and Kevo needed no second invitation and says, thank you very much. I'll steal that spot away from you.
That was pretty tasty through the final corner. Again, space given, respect given between the two drivers. I don't think that move is particularly done, especially whilst they're more battling for pride and a bit of I-rating more so than anything else. You've got the Fire car directly ahead, the Fire Sim Sport Red in that number 2 that was battling a bit higher up as we look at Kevin Ellis Jr. again in the Apex Racing facility. So you know, that was a nice move.
And I can confirm now it is Jamie Fluke behind now that we're looking at the Kevin Ellis onboard. He doesn't look too happy right now.
I mean, it is kind of one of those things when you're frustrated in a race like this where you just sort of like, well, everything's kind of gone.
He does,
by the wayside.
He does look a bit frustrated. And speaking of Apex, they've gotten past Racine Fazui up front. Johnny Vecchio will try and follow. But I talked about Rainer Talvar needing to stretch his legs. Guess what he has done? 1.9 seconds clear. BS Competitions galloping into the sunset.
Yeah, they really are starting to run away right now. Now the next one to get to the inside, Team Redline Blue, Gianni Vecchio, not able to make a move on Fazui just yet, and that's more of a problem when it comes to points, because second position now starting to run away. Jamie Fluke well in control of that second position, and like I say, those gaps, they are going to start to grow just a little bit, and so this is where desperation might come into this for Gianni Vecchio and potentially Eva Diogo Pinto as well. There's the dive straight to the inside. Look at that for a bold move from Vecchio. Opens the door potentially for Pinto to dive one down the inside, but no, not going to yet. He's going to wait for the chicane.
Looking up for some data as well, maybe trying to follow what's going on with, maybe streaming on Twitch, I'm not exactly sure here, but yes, there is now separation between the top 3, but by no means is this done. By no means are any of these top 3 comfortable. We've still got 45 minutes to go. There's a bit of draft being fed by Gianni Vecchio to Diogo Pinto, who will slide it to the inside and take 4th position away from Racine Fazui. He's now going to be looking backwards. 2.8 seconds to Antiola, who's in front of this train of cars, and it's an angry old train of cars, as that is Valentin Mandenok, who had a look to the inside of the final corner, had to back out of that one. Again, the 3 RAG cars slowly working their way into the top 10. Here comes Mandenok with a look to the inside.
Yeah, nice little look, but not really too much. Obviously, Mandenok doesn't really have any pressure from behind, with Vlad Kimichev just sat there sort of assisting, being like, right, you make the move, I will follow you through. This is an important position. This is for 10th and also for access to the rest of this train. We could genuinely see 3-4 RHGs inside the points here this afternoon, because they are right there. They're stacking up. It's always how it works post-pit stop, where we were talking of 3 or 4 realistically in this sort of train. Pre-pit stop, post-pit stop, this train has grown. It's ballooned massively. We've got so many more involved in it. Whilst the top lot have been able to run away, this train goes from 7th all the way down. And honestly, the positions just keep stacking up, because Team Redline Yellow in 13th, then the Williams Esports Chill Blast, Apex, they're also still involved in this train for 7th place.
Well, we see a move from RAG to get 2 cars into the top 10 as they work their way down the hill. They'll show the nose to the inside. Can Iago Martinez do anything about it? He'll lose 1. Here comes the move potentially from the second car. Vlad Kimichev going for the up and under.
Oh, that was going to be bold though. Final corner. Seen this one work out just a little bit recently. Is it going to work out this occasion? Yes, respect between the two once more. And Zenith dropped down a couple of positions. There was a little bit of contact, though I think it might have been the Zenith car kind of turning back in, trying to get to the corner where the RHG car already was. So I think it was more just sort of like a Zenith Esports error, in my opinion. But realistically, no one's sort of lost anything from that, so it's sort of fair enough. Yeah, that's just a bit of hard racing between the two. Full send having a bit of an issue.
That's full send.
Yeah, that was a bit more full send than what we've seen earlier.
Yep, and that's not ideal, as I think Vlad Kimichev has had some team orders there. Multi-21, he gets past Valentin Mandenok. Team games going on there, and meanwhile, as this group tries to chase down Racine Fazui, 2.2 seconds, 2.3 seconds basically. Rainer Talvar, like I said, trying to gallop off into the distance, has put another lapped car in between him and the nicest man in all of sim racing, Jamie Fluke. Moved back as well between Valtteri Alander, who's lost out, to Gabby Montero, who's taken over from Danny Elgabe in the MSI number 4 car. Valtteri Alander does not want to give this one back. He's flashing the lights, the universal sign that he loves that move.
Yeah, he's going. I think this is not going to last long because I think Valtteri Alander might come back through.
Mandark, what just happened there?
How? Into the pit lane?
I have never seen that before.
We've seen a few big ones today. Obviously, Enzo Benito in this section of the racetrack. We saw that enormous crash and the moon landing really take place once more as the space race was once again back on. I think it might have continued here.
So let's watch. It's got to be.
Trying to get into pit lane.
Why is he trying to come down into pit lane though? That's the question.
Oh my. Well, that was less bad than I was expecting. I just didn't understand why.
I think that's an instant DQ, isn't that?
Yeah. I think, well, yeah, fine, because obviously, I don't know where it was on the instant points, but there was obviously going to be one.
It doesn't look like that's a technical issue either.
No, it kind of looks like a driver that might have been a bit frustrated with something. Honestly, don't know. Don't know. Wouldn't want to sort of speculate on that too much just because I just don't understand or know really what happened.
By the way, going back to what you said, space race, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
It did get launched. It did get launched quite far on the nose of Enzo Benito. I think with things like that, with the pitting, is realistically speaking, there's no reason why a car would be in pit lane because you would instantly jump to it being a drive-through penalty. Maybe he had a drive-through penalty. We don't get them. Instant points reached. Once it's reached 25, it's a DQ. There's no drive-through. There's no 17 or 18 and then a drive-through. So I don't really know what actually happened.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We should probably not speculate too much. We know the end result, though. There's no speculation about that.
Yeah, that's a car retiring from the race. That is the certainty. 2.6 seconds BS competition lead, and that's for me with Rainer Talvar, and Phil Dinez, those two behind the wheel of that car. Rainer Talvar at the moment. That's an outfit which is good enough to kind of keep that gap, hover it around. Understand the bigger picture in this kind of race that particularly later on, even if you lap a tenth, 2 tenths slow, which doesn't sound like much and really isn't, but to these guys that's a lifetime. That's like 2.5 seconds slower for me. It really is. The percentage wise, these guys are really on the limit at all times. Losing a tenth or two a lap, realistically for Rainer Talvar, that's acceptable, and you know that you can do that. Just losing a tenth or two a lap, you could do that for 15 laps and the gap's still going to stay over a second. And from this point to the end of the race, we're talking of another sort of 20 laps to go. So you can really start to play the long game, especially as that grouping behind with the Apex Racing and the two Team Redlines, they are going to start battling. So in that sense, all is good. Lap times at the moment are in the higher 18s, lower 19s at present.
Yeah, it's not a question of if they will battle, it's when they will battle.
Yeah.
On board with Jamie Fluke once more. Just look at him, calm, cool, and collected. If team manager Alex Simpson is still watching, we need the track maps. We need the track maps.
Yeah, it's a desperation now. I don't know where they'd put it though. They'd have to build a fake wall to the side of Jamie Fluke and then put them on, or you can lay them up as a massive trip hazard over the floor. Yeah. That's a great carpet. Just track maps on the floor, like obviously not sticking out. But just like getting like vinyl cutouts of cutouts and just having those on the floor. Boom, there's your idea.
Lewis McClade, Lewis at lewismclade.com for royalties for that idea.
Exactly, trademark. That'd be a sick carpet though.
It would. Oh, now I'm thinking about it. Looks like, by the way, Rasim Fazui is doing decently. Antiola still not really being able to close up as one might have expected. He's, about 1.3 back, so the pace is somewhat equalized. I say somewhat equalized. Rasim Fazui's been consistent in the mid-119s. Antiohola last time by 1:19.2. So he is closing, but only bit by bit. The issue is going to be once he gets passed by 1, then Montoro in the MSI car is only one and a bit back, and then it's going to be a train. The choo-choo train is coming.
But this is where he might be actually a little bit happy that Antiohola is like a bit separated from that train, because the pace of that pack is slowing down, right? So where we started this stint, it was in the mid-18s versus the mid-19s. Fuzui's still running in those mid-19s, as you're saying, which kind of tells me that if there is a pass, if Kovi gets through, RHG do get past Kovi, by the way, the 888, making the move Hugh Barter on Valtteri Alander. So Alander, this battle does continue between the 888 and the 777. But if the RHG gets passed by the 707, with the pace differential now, it's not as high as it was earlier where it was a second. Now it might be that region 2-3 tenths where the slipstream might just be enough to keep you in tow of that car ahead. So this might actually work out. I mean, don't get me wrong, again, I like the gamble. I like they've given it a go. I think it might be a little bit of a push too far, but they are desperately trying something different to get them involved in the points, and you've got to respect that.
This is the benefit of new formats, and that's what we love about BMW, always trying new things. And well, hopefully if they're watching as well, let's get that LMDH on the service, please. Let's get on iRacing.
Absolutely. I take that around Bathurst.
I take that around the Nordschleife.
Oh, the second best track in the world. Yeah, no.
Maybe our chat can help answer this.
No, because they're probably going to side with you.
Because I'm right.
I see. Well, this is the thing, is that if you're in the Apex Racing facility...
Alander loses another position, by the way. There goes the number 8 of Vlad Kimichev down the inside.
Yeah, the pace just really isn't there for Valtteri Alander. If you're in the Apex Racing facility and you made all the tracks, by the way, and this is another idea for you, boom, you've got Nordschleife around the outside, big around the outside, and you fit other tracks in it.
Ooh.
So there you go.
I like that idea. I do like that idea. By the way, for Valtteri Alander, let's not discredit him. I mean, the pace is not necessarily up there with his teammates, but we know you put Alander in an open wheel car.
He's quite good.
He's quite good.
He's all right. Yeah,
he's all right.
Learning on the fly, very differing techniques as well. And this is things like, because obviously we commentated on the ISOWC when he jumped into open wheel racing in the IndyCar, of course. But not only that, of course, we know that he's good in open wheels, but it was oval racing where he hadn't had much experience. What I like is it's the fact of it's trying something different, and then actually being really quite sick at it. But we'll gloss over that bit. It's just trying new
flashing,
things
by the
and
way.
learning.
Lights flashing from Antiohola. That's, again, I talked about universal signs of he's happy. This is the universal sign of hurry up, get out of my way, I want to run away.
So this is why you like GTs, because it's got flashing lights. If it was Valtteri Alander a couple of cars back and open wheeler, there's no lights. You can't flash them.
Oh, that's a good idea for IndyCar in the future, how they incorporate
pop-up headlights.
Yes, no, exactly. Aerodynamically great.
Yeah, I'm not so sure how that would work. By the way, the lead at the top is growing massively. Reina Talvar is on a completely different planet to everyone else. 3.2 seconds clear of Jamie Fluke. Absolutely superb.
And to quote Talvar's teammate, Phil Dinez, rain our beast. So that's all you need to know about this one, as Antiohola still stuck behind Racine Fuzui. And going back to Valtteri Alander, it's not just the fact that he was trying something new with oval racing. He had done a couple of oval races. He had done 2 oval races, period, before the ISOWC. Was in contention for the win at Auto Club until the run to the line made a slightly ill-advised move that took out not only himself, but
poor Christian Steele.
Poor Christian Steele, who I can tell he was still beat up about that one and still is not too happy with how that one went down. But then we saw it at Indianapolis, those four-lap qualifying runs, which I will always say that Indianapolis is the most road-like oval you can find because you drive it more like a road course. And he was blistering in qualifying, took the charge to I5G. Unfortunately, though, just did not work out very nicely for him. His teammate Antiohola does slot inside of Racine Fuzui. He's trying to maybe come back to the inside of the final corner, but Fuzui has to be careful because he's in the middle of the hornet's nest and the choo-choo train is upon him. 3 wide they go.
Montoro straight to the inside for MSI Esports. This is the kind of stuff that ends in tears, and to be fair, wisely so. RHG backing out of it and probably going to drop back even a couple for Zui. Obviously getting out of the way of his teammates and potentially even more so. I think they might have called that when it comes to their running for some points. They've dropped down to 10th position, does for Zui. Just trying to get out of the middle of it, maybe just trying to go and greet the checkered flag now, as I think points will elude them today. But respect for the attempt. I mean, it was a bold go. I think on some other tracks it might have worked. Road Atlanta, which yes is twisty, I think it's a bit too easy to pass to make things like that work, because you can always just use the slipstream down into the chicane to get past.
Yeah, I think people, it's not just the chicane. We've seen turn 1. Plenty of passes happening there too as well. By the way, we're looking now at 2 battles going on, and they are going to be fun. Again, it's 3.5 seconds, the gap for the race lead, but Jamie Fluke is starting to come under fire from those behind him. And behind Antiohola, here comes the move from MSI Esports, looking to the inside, but door gets closed off. And once more, it might be the up and under coming here.
See if he can get to the inside at the final corner, but obviously Montoro just holding that central line, just trying to basically say, not here, Sonny Jim. We might have another bit of 3 wide as taking the slipstream, taking the bump a little bit to get to the inside. Montoro still not able to get past the Cova car. Watch out for RHG, who are going to stack up behind of this train and potentially try and find their way through. It's the 888 of Hugh Barton with Vlad Kimachev directly behind, and you've got Cova on the rear end at Valtteri Lander, who's not been particularly pleased with the RHG drivers in this battle. I think he might try and get through and assist his teammate.
He saw a shot there as they entered into turn 5. This track got a bit of a visual update in the last couple of years here on iRacing, and there's some nice BMW signs with the ultimate driving experience quote. Really fascinating track. They updated the curbs as well, so you can place your car just that little bit differently as they come down through turn 7 onto the back straightaway. Bit by bit, red line is closing bit by bit. Cova's being reeled in as well. Here comes Johnny Vecchio looking to the inside, not committing just yet. 30 minutes to go. The move maybe not on the cards until those final 10 minutes. And once more, MSI is really getting the elbows out as he'll look to the inside of Antiohola, who says, you know what, if you want to be this aggressive, you can have it.
That was a nice little move from Gabriel Montoro, but it was the defence, it was the chopping over the nose of Hugh Barton behind which caused the issues. Hugh Barton now trying to go around the outside at the final corner, trying to defend his Antiohola. Hugh Barton straight to the inside, trying to pick up the top 6 position straight down there, and once again, Antiohola, they're almost, I'd say the Covas are being almost a bit too nice in this, just thinking, oh, for goodness sake, here's another one. And it's a problem with a track like this, is you do just get freight trained a little bit.
I do think that the Cova cars are cognizant of the fact that they need to finish in the top 10 to get the points. We should also note, RAG is potentially, we talked about having race control. I think RAG might end up in a bit of trouble. I don't know exactly which cars got mixed up in what incidents now because of just how many different things that we've seen, but I don't think they can be entirely comfortable with where they are.
I don't think there's a couple of teams that are in that position as well, because remember that
BS competition as well.
BS competition with their incident with Fire. Remember them. Obviously they had that incident. Now the way this is going to work is race control will give post-race penalties to people inside the top 5ers. There, straight down the inside, Vlad Kimachev looking for the move as Hugh Barton's trying to get around the outside of MSI. No move there. Montoro's still going to hang on. Vlad Kimachev has got past Antiohola. Montoro's wide. Hugh Barton's coming through down the hill into the final corner.
I think Hugh Barton has that one. Yes, he does. RHG now up into 5th. 10 positions gained for the 888, 17 for the 8. Drama, drama, drama. Because I can confirm we've got post-race penalties and it affects the cars running in 1 and 2.
That's rough. But
I tell you what though, it is a 5-second penalty for Reino Talvar.
And he's nearly got 5 seconds.
He might end up still winning this one.
And this is where the target needs to come in. This is why you're Phil Denez and you made a couple of mistakes and whatever in instance with Fire, with Apex, whatever. Now it's time to tell Reino Talvar to go. Light this up, try and clear as, by the way, in the background. Did see a little bit of 3 wide coming off. Oh, goodness me. Well, there we
Kevin
go.
Ellis Jr. disqualified. He immediately gone from the track, and poor Kevin Ellis Jr. The luck for the Apex Racing 98 has not been there, and the 99 has been mixed up in their own drama as well.
Oh. Yeah, so this is the thing, is what we're seeing is not too many cars that actually did well in round 1 are doing well in round 2. It's only, to be honest, those 2 Team Redline cars that are likely to move up at least 1 position. This was a 3 wide off of 5.
Yeah,
which, let's be honest, doesn't work well.
Yeah, and as Racine Fazui, he was, I think, stopped being nice at this point and then sends it into the corner.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
Let's see from up above what's going to happen here. This might give us a better indication. Just look how little room they're leaving each other. It was great in through turn 6.
Such a light tap.
But it's instigated by the R8G car there.
Yeah, no, a tap is a tap, and obviously at that point when you're on the limit of grip of the tyres, it only really takes one little push to send you around, and that's kind of all it was from Fazui, just diving in a little bit too much, making the contact. Obviously that would have been a 4x or at least a 2x for loss of control. Obviously it would have been a 4x, and that is where Kevin Harris Jr. picked up the DQ, which I think for him he'll be sat there and think, oh well, that sucks.
You know what I think now? I think Gianni Vecchio has to get the move.
I agree.
Because, again, 5-second penalty for BS competition. As it stands, I think Reina Talvar could pull the gap on Jamie Fluke.
Agree. Can he pull it on Gianni Vecchio, though? That's kind of... The thing is if Gianni Vecchio gets through, you're still only talking that realistically over the next 26 minutes, this race comes down to realistically what happens between 0.5 of a second. 0.3 of a second even now at the moment. Because if Reina Talvar doesn't get... And this goes back to the 2021 Austrian Grand Prix, where Lewis Hamilton got a 5-second penalty, and it was like whether Lando Norris was going to get a podium or not. It's kind of in that vein with this race. It comes down to that half second, and it makes all the difference. I think you're absolutely right. I think Gianni Vecchio needs to get past Jamie Fluke right now and start setting qualifying laps for the next 25 minutes, just trying to keep Reina Talvar at least within reaching distance within arm's length. And Reina Talvar will be doing the exact opposite, but trying to make the gap a lot bigger.
It is up to 4.5. Has Gianni Vecchio got the message? Has someone let him know in his ear? 5-second time penalty for BS competition. And again, there will be a 5-second penalty for Jamie Fluke as well. At this point, he doesn't have much to worry about. He will drop down to 4th no matter what happens. Jamie Fluke, does he want to make Redline's life difficult? That's ultimately the question that's on his mind now.
Yeah, be asking the question, who do I prefer, BS competition or Team Redline? Because he's the one that is essentially one of the deciding factors of it. If he only has his own race to worry about, as we'll see what's happened to full time and just losing the rear end once again, and that one's going to be into the barrier quite a bit. Not too major. I think just again taking a little bit too much speed into turn 1, and the tyres just really aren't there. Yeah, for James, if he's really focused on just finishing the race, he knows that 4th place with that penalty is about as good as it's going to get. So in that sense, if I were him thinking logically in that scenario, I wouldn't really fight the 2 red lines behind, because if I'm just going to finish in 4th, I'm just going to finish in 4th, and then you're not really worrying about the pack behind. However, if he kind of wants to throw a bit of a spanner in the works, maybe doesn't like Team Redline, sit where you are and try and defend. Or to be fair, he might not know. That's the other
Yes,
thing.
no, well, I hope he knows now, because we're telling the team through the chat. They should know. Do remember, bit of drama last year between Apex and Redline in the World Championship scene. There's beef. I'm pretty sure there's still beef.
Which is what we like. We love a good bit of beef.
Oh, it was
why it's why we really enjoyed VCO WC, because post race on day 1,
Tobias
hearing one of the hearing Mitchie Tauscher being like, great stuff from Veloce, and then hearing Tobias Gronovol basically just being like, they were horrible to battle with, and just basically throwing him under the bus, which, to be fair, is sometimes a bit like, woof, you can't really say that. But we're sat there being like, go on, give it some, go on.
Hey,
tell us how you really feel.
At least there was no foul language used.
That is true, which cannot be said for quite a lot of other teams
when
it comes to their interviews.
There are some teams that really need to learn that some language is unacceptable. like that's the one thing that I love about like some of the eNASCAR teams, for example. There's a lot of work that has gone into media training for them, making sure they understand what's required on social media, you know, etc., etc., etc. I don't always feel as though teams on the road course side of things have got that memo as well. Yes, they're decent in terms of putting forward social media content, but the entire picture, maybe not as good, as Gabi Montoro has been passed by Vlad Kimichev. RAG now 5th and 6th in line, but again, potential post-race penalties for RAG. It's all up in the air.
I did get asked to assist someone else. It was Alan Terzic, BS Competition. Did get asked to assist him with being interviewed and stuff once, and I said I would help him. Sorry, mate, I completely forgot. Being interviewed and stuff, because obviously as a sim racer, is sometimes a little bit bizarre, because a lot of, like I say, no one's really got media training out on the grid, because it does cost a decent amount to a team, and they're not really like that bothered in that sense. It's just like, look, just go. As long as you're racing fast and winning, we're okay. And so then it comes down to the driver as to whether they're really going to make the difference, and then a lot of them kind of don't, which is, I guess, you know, fair enough. It's up to them. But from our perspective, please, come on, step it up.
If you want media training, I'm being told Will Vincent will provide that to you. Contact at RaceSpotTV. Just drop us a note. We're happy. We are happy to give you a helping hand. Here comes the move, and well, we talked about potential. Well, that I don't know if that's as. Well, I don't even remember, to be honest, the contact that we saw between Apex and Redline before. That was a bit aggressive from Gianni Vecchio, who got the memo. 6 seconds back from Rainer Talvar now. 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, that might have been a bit much. Not 100% sure. Would need to see it again. What the 72 did seem to have sort of elbowed the 99 off the track a little bit there, and Jamie Fluke pushed wide. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a penalty or not. Either way, it was hard racing, and the one person that definitely didn't make a mistake in any of that was Diogo Pinto, who snuck his way through, got into that third spot, and now sat right on the rear end of his teammate. I think we are going to see a fair amount of bump drafting here between the two of them, just to push them, just to try and close that 6-second gap, and also watch out for Gianni Vecchio now. Well, to be honest, to set the world alight when it comes to the timings.
By the way, if you want to come and join in the party, talk about all things BMW sim racing across the different platforms, head over to the official BMW sim racing Discord, RaceSpot.wtf/BMW sim racing. It's the place to be to get up to date with all the latest comings and goings, and to stay involved with the road to BMW Sim Live. What's the lap time this time by? For Talvar, it was a 1:18.749. For Redline, a 1:18.979.
It's not feeling good for Redline right now. BS Competition are very much in control. Despite having a penalty, they are still in control. They're leading this as a technicality at the moment. They're leading it by 1.5 seconds. Obviously, the 5-second time penalty, which is going to Rainer Talvar. But it's the experience within this car. They know this car like the back of their hand. They've got more experience in this car than Redline do. That is a certainty. They were racing it an awful lot last year when Redline were kind of sitting back. Eventually, you know, in Season 2 of BMW SIM GT Cup, they did start racing, did Redline. They did start racing and winning quite a bit in this BMW M4. But it is teams like BS Competition, teams like Valkyrie and such, that have a lot of experience within this car. They know what they're doing.
And I think we might have seen some good pace from Valkyrie, if not for, you know, being mixed up in things at the start of this race. Let's focus then with 18 minutes to go. We'll track the gaps at the front. It is now 6.5 seconds. Remember, 5 seconds, the magic number for Gianni Vecchio to take 2 in a row here. But of course, RAG running 5th and 6th with Hugh Barter in front of Vlad Kimichev. You got Gabi Montoro for MSI back in 7th. The two Kova cars, Anziohola, who in that 707 and his teammate have worked it up 6 positions out on track, but Valtteri Alander has dropped down 2 in the 777. Zenith Esports round out the points positions just behind this grouping of cars, but they are being hunted down by the Redline yellow machine as Redline try and just get some very valuable championship points on the board. For those wondering, of course, Maximilian Beneke, second race in a row where he's had disappointing luck. This time not even getting to drive the car. The Redline red car taken out on lap number 1. There's a long way to go on the road to BMW Sim Live, where Redline, I'm sure, want to make sure it's not a Coanda driver for the 4th year in a row taking home the championship.
At the moment, it's not looking super likely it'd be a Coanda driver in terms of we've not had one as of yet taking part in this season. Of course, it is only round 2 though, so open up to them joining. And to be fair, I think we'd quite like to see Coanda just jumping in and seeing the battle continue. To be fair, what has been at the moment in this season so far, it's been BS competition. There goes the move from Dan Biggs. That was a pretty nice move to get on the inside for Team Redline Yellow. It's been realistically, round 1 was Team Redline versus Apex. This has been Team Redline versus BS competition. I want to see Team Redline versus BS competition versus Apex versus Coanda versus RHG versus everyone
Valkyrie
else in the grid.
Versus
throw them all in there. Kova, love them all in there, because let's be honest, they're all good enough to win. Like, all these teams, we're not shocked when they win, no matter on what type of field, because they all can do it. They all can get the job done, and that's what makes this, honestly, so enthralling.
I am super impressed by Reino Talvar. Last time by a 118.685. Compared to a 118.899 for Gianni Vecchio. Yes, he might have lost a bit of time with this lap traffic, but it's not going to be too much of a factor. I'm knocking on wood, because I love the Zebras. I think Reino Talvar has this one in control. I think the 5-second gap is not, 5-second penalty, excuse me, is not going to be a major factor once we get to the checkered flag here.
Look, Reino Talvar is good enough to keep that gap at bay. Again, if you really want to dial it in, to dumb it down, it's over the next 16 minutes. If you're losing less than, it's 1/10 a minute basically, right? And so realistically, what, 10th and a half a lap? That's the amount of time that you're afforded to lose. Now, bearing in mind that Reino Talvar is as fast, if not, and realistically, is faster than Gianni Vecchio, that's sort of a bit of a comfort, because that gap will hold, and there will come a point where it'll be even, you kind of lap within 1 second of yourself, and you're still going to hang on to this race victory. So those kind of things, it just allows you to be a little bit more comfortable, allows you to just dial back the risk, and Reino Talvar knows that, and is good enough to hold that kind of gap over the next 15 minutes, unless something goes wrong. Could be a mistake, could be lap traffic, but that's all Redline are hoping for. They're waiting. If they want to win this race, they're waiting for a miracle. To be fair, I think they'd be happy with where they are. They're running 2nd and 3rd. They were running 1st and 2nd last round. Obviously, they're never going to be super happy when they're not winning. But when it comes to the title race, when it comes to getting to BMW Sim Live, it's all about consistency. We're returning this back to essentially a classic championship.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially for Gianni Vecchio in that number 72 car. One thing that we have to remember as well, and it's going to be somewhat difficult to try and follow along with, is the fact that you can switch driver lineups across of an event. And so you get points per event as a team, but you accumulate them for the drivers. It just means that, for example, Gianni Vecchio might now say, okay, I've got 2 race wins or 2 good points finishes under my belt. Maybe next round I'll work with Beneke and we'll see what we can do together.
Yeah, it's kind of the way it works is typical as to how it works quite a lot in the real life with certain GT championships and along with various other endurance championships where you win the points as a team, but the points go to the driver's name. So, say for example, like say jumping between car, or even jumping between team. If Gianni Vecchio decides he doesn't like Redline anymore, I'm not trying to cause any controversy or anything. I'm just saying, I mean, maybe he likes a bit of white, purple, and red. Who knows?
Open the rumor mill. Gianni Vecchio's going to Coanda. Lewis McLeod.
Off we go. No, obviously not. But say for example he were to go over there, he still carries his points. They're still his points. Coanda aren't going to, or whatever team, aren't going to get an advantage from adding those points to their roster. It's just about you as a driver, how many points you've got. So in this, Gianni Vecchio is gaining 18 points for finishing 2nd and the point for fastest lap. Simple. Those are his points.
They would get the benefit of having a driver with those points.
Yeah. Although... I kind of wonder if they will start switching it up, if they will stick Benecca in with Vecchio or switch things around just a little bit.
One thing to remember, of course, is, like I said, World Championship season kicked off yesterday, so it is a busy, busy time for a lot of these teams and drivers. You think about for Redline, Vecchio had World Championship yesterday. He's got BMW SIM GT Cup today. He is really playing it loose and goose with the exit of turn 5, but he's 7.5 seconds back. No matter what he's doing, it's not good enough to match Rainer Talvar. World Championship yesterday, BMW today, Bathurst next week. And that's a race.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And Bathurst is a track. It's not forgiving. If you're not ready, the mountain will gobble you up.
Yeah, you need to. It's kind of one of those racetracks. You know, you compare it to places like Paul Ricard and places like that. They're almost like the tracks you don't have to respect. You just do what you want to do. Even, you know, to some degree, Kota, although there's some sausage curbs here and there. But, you know, they're tracks that there's enough runoff and stuff. You don't actually have to respect the circuit. Whereas places like Bathurst, like the Nordschleife, like street circuits like Long Beach, etc., you have to respect the actual track itself. You've got to respect it. You've got to understand your limits as a driver and the limits of the car as well. And it's what makes that kind of stuff so fascinating. But when you're juggling around all the competitions that these drivers are juggling, it's an unbelievable task to keep on even an average sort of pace at this level. You know, something which would get you in the mid-pack, let alone being at the front of every series that's taking part. It shows the talent, shows the work ethic of a lot of these teams, and shows what they're really, really capable of. I know we've been over it 1,000 times, but it is a very valid point.
Let's take a look on board with Gabby Montoro. Jinking back and forth as now Vlad Kimichev goes on the defense as they work themselves past a bit of lap traffic. It's getting intense between these drivers. Remember, an incident, an issue here might just cause some of these drivers to drop outside of those top 10 points paying positions. Red line yellow has the final one of those points, as looks like there's been a switch out front. Looks like Diogo Pinto has cycled in front of Gianni Vecchio. I wonder if maybe they're now saying, okay, Gianni hasn't been able to get the job done. Diogo, go for it. 3 seconds. You have 10 minutes to make that up.
Yeah, no, I'm not feeling that. I think that is too big of a gap. But either way, Pinto is out front. Whether they'll switch him back before the end of the race. Whether Redline are due a penalty as well for that move they did on Apex. You know, we're not 100% sure. It was a bold dive from Gianni Vecchio to get to the inside of Jamie Fluke, who obviously is not fighting in this, is just looking to hang on to fourth place right now. But either way, Diogo Pinto up into second spot. I think 3 seconds is way too much to close down. But positions battles are certainly not over. Of course, we had that one between the two RHGs, MSI and the two Covers. Team Redline Yellow, whilst getting past the 197, the gap's around 1 second. Doesn't necessarily mean that the 197 Apex Racing Academy is necessarily out of contending for a points-paying finish, especially dependent on what happens with all the RHG bunts we know did get a bit elbows out earlier on in the race.
No further action on the red line pass on Apex. It is a it's just a warning. It was aggressive, but I'm going to be honest, I really don't remember what happened between Apex and Redline that caused Apex to get the 5-second penalty.
No, that I also remember. I don't know if we necessarily caught it, but I will say the one between Redline and Apex, I mean, it was into the final chicane, especially with how Apex had already got a penalty and stuff. It was a bit bold, it was a bit aggressive, but there was space given. It was just an aggressive lunge. Yeah, I get the warning. It's not necessarily a racing incident, it's more like a, right, you have done wrong, but it's nothing major, so carry on, don't do it again.
Slap on the wrist.
Otherwise race control will step in and they'll ruin your day.
Yeah, so you don't want that, trust me. 9 laps probably to go in this race. Last time by half a tenth. That is all that Diogo Pinto was able to gain. And I do think he's looking quicker than Gianni Vecchio, who is dropping back very slightly here. Just too little too late. That's the reality here.
Does make you wonder, and it does ask the potentially not so nice question of what if they'd have switched earlier, but that is something which they couldn't have known back then, because I mean, Pinto's quick in this car. I remember back to Monza how fast he was at Monza, and even of course Daytona a few weeks ago was incredibly fast. But between the two of them, if I were to make a pick, as there goes Fluke back to the inside to get the position done on Gianni Vecchio. We'll focus on them as they are on circuit. We know obviously the Apex Race Team car does have a 5-second time penalty, but still want to pick up that position for Honor anyway.
Yeah, that was a nice pass as well. Respect shown between both teams and both drivers, and I think Gianni Vecchio probably got the memo that 5-second penalty, don't fight too hard. Nothing to gain, a lot to lose. So time ticking by here at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. The second round of the BMW SIM GT Cup for 2022 has been rather extraordinary. We've seen it all. We've seen cars going up in the air, not true shuttle status, but moon landing status potentially. Potentially. We've seen Redline, Beneke having issues. We've seen RAG carve their way up through the field. Yes, a bit aggressive, but they've done it very, very impressively. Standout performer so far, Lewis. I mean, for me, it's got to be Reina Talvar.
Reina Talvar.
Yeah,
it's the pace in this second half of the race. Like, don't get me wrong, Phil Dinez handed over the car in a very, very nice position, but it's how Talvar has responded to that pressure and has built the gap very, very consistently. And the lap just completed, by the way, was only half a tenth off of their best lap in that car. It was an 18.5. It was 0.3 faster than Diogo Pinto. That is a monster stint to rival the likes of Alejandro Sanchez back in Daytona.
That is an exclamation point, is what it is.
Yeah. Yes, by the way, this is what I still have in the tank. Watch out for me.
Yeah. And a warning shot fired across for maybe the rest of 2022, not just here in this BMW SIM GT Cup, but for everything else that goes on across of the iRacing world. So many different competitions, so many different events on an almost weekly basis. Be interesting to see what is in store there. It's been fun. Really been fun. I love these BMW Sim events. It just always has some surprises, some shocks in store. Does Gianni Vecchio have a surprise for us here?
I think he's going to hold position for now. I think there's one round that we're both looking at over this season. It's round 8 that we're both looking at, being like, oh, I can't wait for that one. Bit of Barber. Oh, something a bit weird on the calendar there for you. Obviously, the races that we have in this, they've always been fantastic. They're always at a very, very high level because the grid is just simply incredible. On this field. Always has been. Obviously changes every round, as it being just basically a standard official series. For some of the teams that jump into this, it's their first opportunity to race in a top split, high-end, like big competitive series. And we caught that, I remember, back in Suzuka and stuff, with having some teams like Volante and such jumping up into top split for their very...
Lewis.
Not their first time, but still.
Lewis, we talked about RAG maybe getting dinged. They're looking at a penalty. That incident that we saw with, I believe it was Andre Melchers and the Fire Sim Sport purple car down into turn number 1. That car is sitting up in 6th right now. Now, let's just, I don't know exactly what the penalty is, but let's, for the sake of consistency, say it's a 5-second penalty. They're outside of the top 10. Zenith Esports, who have just gotten past the Apex Racing Academy car, will take the championship points for that final points-paying position.
Yeah, for right now, for Zenith, like, they need to just be praying that someone else is going to pick up a penalty. So it is, whether it is the RAG, whether it is to anyone else, whatever, they're just, right, close that gap as best as possible. You're probably not going to be able to catch and pass Team Redline Yellow, but that's not even the objective. It's just about closing in on them and waiting to see what happens post-race. And to be fair, we know that Zenith, I'll say Zenith actually have impressed me a little bit today. The pace from that car has actually been pretty decent, particularly towards the end of the first stint when they were being dragged back into contention for the race lead. I think they've done well. Had a little bit of an issue through the pit stop and losing a bit of time there, but still, let's be honest, doing a great job.
Second stint maybe hasn't been as good, but of course the things did cycle around in the pit stop window, and I think the undercut just didn't work out nicely. They got put back into traffic, and maybe what we have seen is reference for future races, the overcut might be the preferred strategy. Just keep yourself out there on track with low fuel for as long as possible. Maybe that's what we're going to see. By the way, Kova now almost bumping Gabby Montoro through turn 7 as they come onto the back straight for one of the final times today. 3 minutes left on the clock, and your race leader is already working himself down the hill as here comes the move. Looking to try and get past the 707. Montoro's been aggressive with the defense. He's aggressive once more.
That was a little bit of sort of like moving in the braking zone, which is always a bit of a no-no. Just trying to keep the 707 at bay and sort of being a bit indecisive with the line down into the braking zone, into the chicane. Montoro able to hang on. Kova, I mean, look, they're doing what we've kind of said before about just ticking off points. They want to get inside the selection to go to BMW Sim Live. They're just trying to tick off the points. But today, you kind of have to say that Kova have missed out on quite a few points by essentially basically being the nice guys, by not really fighting too hard, which, yes, of course, risk versus reward. It tends to be the better way to go, is to sort of not fight everything too hard. But how much have they really lost realistically in this race?
Well, remember, they'll cycle up to 7th and 8th likely because of the penalty incoming for the 8th. So, I mean, I know what you mean, but I think, you know, you consistently finish inside the top 8, you're looking comfortable for BMW Sim Live.
For sure, but it's just whether they felt that they could get more. You've got to take it. I get that, but you do have to take advantage of the days where you've got good pace. If you don't do that, then you start to lose out a little bit, because sure, you might be able to finish in the top 8 every couple of rounds, but is every couple of rounds good enough? That's where you need to sort of counter and use the good pace. We know how fast Kova are, but what if Coanda start appearing later on in the season and start stealing points away from a lot of these teams? You've got to take advantage whilst they are there directly ahead of you. And that, for me, that's one thing that Kova might not have done today.
2 more laps, this time by. Red line blue still on the tail end of the Apex racing car. Gianni Vecchio chasing down Jamie Fluke as they come in through turn number 3. Still action further back as well as we try and follow what's going on between the likes of Antiola, Gabby Montoro. And watch out maybe for the Apex Racing Academy car to try and have a lunge to steal away 10th position, at least 10th in the points, away from Zenith Esports in the number 7. Bit by bit, time is ticking by and time is running out to make something happen. Hugh Barter might just play rear gunner to Vlad Kimichev for now, but I think it might be wise if they got the message that there's a penalty incoming to do the swap around and make Kimichev the one that can defend from Montoro.
Yeah, but this is the thing, is that I'm not necessarily sure how much they're keeping up to date with what's going on. They're just racing as hard as they can and just focused on the positions ahead for them. I get exactly what you're saying, that if you're being wise as the team manager, you'd switch them and then use that as a bit of the rear gunner just to make sure that the Triple Eight is a bit safer. But maybe they just don't know, and they're just pushing. They're just trying to get 5th and 6th for the team, not really aware. Time's ticked down, and obviously we are on the final lap now. As you can see, where BS Competition are about 3,000 miles ahead of the rest of the group. They'll be dragged back a little bit, but still very comfortably clear as we come to the close here at Road Atlanta, and a fantastic race it's been for BS Competition.
I mean, Phil Dinez played it smart. Yes, he got mixed up in an incident, but once Reina Talval took over the car, did not look back. Disposed of Racine Fazui as quickly as possible. Stretched his legs, broke the draft, and from there, domination for BS Competition, Lewis.
It's been one of those races where you really do see the full potential. We were speaking of this a few weeks ago about Apex and their, obviously we know how good Apex are in general and how many they've fought for World Championship stuff, but they were really starting to take the challenge to Team Redline. This is BS Competition's claim to the throne as well, and showing what they can really do.
Strike 1 went to Redline, but strike 2 goes to the Zebras. Galloping across the line, Reina Talvar and Phil Dinez win at Road Atlanta in round 2 of the 2022 BMW Sim GT Cup.
There was definitely the battle behind, by the way, between the Apex and Redline car. Just getting across the line. Apex do lead. Team Redline Blue, of course, penalty will switch them back behind it, but they were definitely side by side into the chicane. Behind that, the 8, the 888, the 4, the 707, and the 777 all come across in the same formation that we'd seen for a few laps, and Team Redline Yellow hoovering up what is on track the final point, for what potentially won't be post-race.
what a race we had. Twists and turns, plenty of drama, plenty of chaos, but the BMW SIM GT Cup does not know how to put on a boring race. Reiner Talvar, take a bow. If we did Driver of the Day votings, well, it should be a slam dunk for him.
Yeah, honestly, like we love ourselves a bit of Phil Denez. You know how quality he is, and obviously he played his part in this victory. But I don't think any more so than the post-pit lane sequence that Reiner Talvar did. The pace was absolutely phenomenal. To be putting in 18.5s an hour into the stint consistently, way quicker than the likes of Redline and the likes of Apex behind. Honestly, that is a monumental effort and shows that BS competition, they are not to be forgotten about. They had a bad luck in round one, but they do love themselves a bit of this BMW M4 and showing exactly why they are needed to be questioned when it comes to contention of the title.
They are one of the BMW Motorsports affiliated teams, and it is finally a victory in the BMW SIM GT Cup for the Zebras. The big blue machine takes victory today. Will we see the BS Turner car, maybe the big red machine, have some luck later in the season? Race results, 91 laps here at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and it will technically be a 4-second advantage that Reiner Talvar had, but he might as well have been 3,000 miles clear. He wins along with Phil Denez, 25 valuable championship points going their way. Diogo Pinto in second for Team Redline Green. Jamie Fluke will drop behind Gianni Vecchio after a post-race penalty. 2 Redline cars on the podium. They have started this season off very, very strong. Vlad Kimichev is scored in 5th, but the indication from race control is it will be a larger than 5-second penalty. He will drop outside of the top 10, outside of the points, but Hugh Barter will take 5th in the points with Gabby Montoro, Antti Ahola, Valtteri Alander, and Christopher Dambeats completing the top 10 out on track. Sergio Ignacio holding off the Apex Racing Academy car for Zenith Esports to steal what might be the final points-paying position. Mikkel Gard for Fire Simsport, and a tough day for that number 2 car. Lasse back being shoved off the road at the chicane, and then a little bit more drama for them, but they do recover up to 13th position. The best of the Williams cars up in 14th with Arnage and Nicholas Rubelar rounding out the top 15. BS Turner 16th with the Apex Racing Academy 199 in 17th. Arnage Competition 18th and Arnage Competition 19th, with the final of the Apex Racing Academy cars, Juan Bustamante, across the line in 20th. Valkyrie Esports will cross in the 17 car in 21st, 157 in 22nd, and the 523 in 23rd, with Full Send Racing having some full sends back in 24th positions. Davina Esports, Triton Racing, Sim3D Sport, NSH Racing Team, Drive Dead Racing, and Deutsche Payment Esports Kulscheiker. All cars 1 lap down, rounding out the top 30, and then we start getting towards the graveyard. Bruno Do Carmo tried a no-tire strategy, but it didn't work out in their favor, down in 31st after pitting late for some fresh rubber. German Sim Racing DE by Hetzner in 32nd. Marshmallow Racing Team, first car 2 laps down with the wannabe SRT Black. Ignium Motorsports car not far behind with the EFP Racing car as well. That's through the top 36. Racine Fazui, the other car that tried the bold strategy of no tires, but then had to play nice. Let his teammates go on through, retired that car down in 37th. Kevin Ellis Jr. disqualified down in 38th with RAG 39th, and the Fire Simsport number 15 in 40th position. It's a big old field, and then we get to the big incident. Beely Euronics, Fire Simsport Yellow, and Team Redline all mixed up in an incident down through the S's early in this race, instigated potentially by Enzo Benito. All 3 retired on the spot. P1 Esports, Drive Dead Racing, Team Redline Red, and Valkyrie Esports not technically classified because they did not meet the drive time rules. Well, with that said, we're going to grab a quick winner's interview as we head down into victory lane, and joined by Phil Denez. And Phil, it was an interesting first stint for you, but once you got out of the car and put your teammate in a position to run away with this race, that's exactly what Reiner Talvar did.
What an unbelievable race. I mean, I did everything that I could in the first stint to save as much tire as possible, save as much fuel, and when the Redline cars would pick up the pace every now and again, it was really hard to keep up while I was still trying to save as much as I could while still keeping in the draft. And when I handed the car over to Rainer, the only thing that I was hoping for was that we would come out in the lead. That's exactly what happened. And Rainer just, he did an amazing job. Say less. I mean, epic race.
And finally, some luck has gone your way. I mean, in that first stint, Phil, was there ever a concern? Because we thought it might be somewhat calm. It was not calm at all.
Yeah, I got in a little scrap there with Fira. I didn't mean to do that on purpose. It was really a mistake. I'm sorry to them, but we didn't even know about the 5-second penalty until 30 minutes left in the race, and Rainer had just been doing his thing, and I didn't even tell him until 10 minutes left because I just let him keep pushing, and he was just in the zone. It was beautiful to watch.
Now, I mean, how do you carry this momentum forward, Phil? Like I said, you guys have had bad luck. I think back to Imola last year in this M4 in that second season of the BMW SIM GT Cup where it looks like you guys had the pace, but no luck. Hopefully this is some forward momentum and, you know, heading to Sebring at the end of March should be some more good luck for the Zebras.
I think as a team, as a whole, we've come into 2022 with a new mindset, a new approach to everything, and as you can see here, I think it's starting to pay off. So we're just going to keep it up like this and hope to see much more of this throughout the year.
Well, congratulations, Phil. I know it's a early morning for you because it was an early morning for me too, but great drive from you in that first stint, and send our congratulations, please, to Rainer on an absolutely phenomenal drive.
Well, I'm wide awake now. I have to say thanks to the whole team, everyone, unbelievable job. Thanks to you guys for everything, and to the next one.
To the next one, indeed. We'll see you in Sebring then at the end of March.
Guys.
Phil Denez joins us then from Victory Lane, and Lewis, I mean, incredible stuff. I mean, this competition always just seems to deliver something, whether it be drama. I mean, even think back to that season 2 last year where the fields weren't necessarily as big, but we had some great racing.
I think this series has always delivered when it comes to the racing that we've had. Yes, sure, we can get into the slipstream fest, into a little bit of fuel saving. We know that is a key factor of these 2-hour races, to get them to the hour mark, to sometimes just past. It happens on every circuit we go to, and it will happen even at Barber. It's just how it is. It shows how close this field is. They keep that tight on every single track we go to, no matter whether it's here, whether it's racing at Bathurst as we did in season 2 last year, as they will do in a week's time as well. They're just genuinely that good, and that's why we're very much in the commentary booth.
And can't wait as well to see what happens next at Sebring. Let's quickly walk through the schedule before we talk a little bit more about Sebring in particular, because you mentioned it, Barber Motorsports Park. That will be round number 8, but it is plenty of interesting tracks. Global names, the likes of Spa, the Nürburgring, Watkins Glen, and you've thrown in the likes of Barber to really mix things up. Hockenheim, our season 2 finale, Lewis. Who can forget the last lap drama that we saw there?
Yeah, what an absolute race. Looking for the for second place for the final transfer spot to BMW Sim Live, and that excellent battle between I think it was Williams and Valkyrie on that day. Absolutely sensational. Plenty of great races happen at Hockenheim. It's not actually a track that I'm actually an enormous fan of, but you know, obviously I like the pre-2001 layout, but these days not so much. But honestly, every time we go racing there, I don't know what it is, we just get an absolute barnstormer. Sebring though, up next. We know that's a great racetrack. Really is one of the best.
Respect the bumps. That will be live 1 p.m. UTC, March 27th. I don't know what to expect from Sebring in this GT3 car. We've seen some interesting races in the past, Lewis, but I really do think that Sebring is going to be a track where we don't see as much of the slipstream game as we've had these last 2 rounds.
Well, Redline did go quite well there. Obviously, it was in the M8, so fair enough, but they did go well there in BMW Sim Live at the end of 2021. They like themselves a bit of Sebring. It is always a bit chaotic. We know that run into turn 1 can be full of drama. Obviously, you're in a canyon there between 2 concrete walls. It can be a little bit tight, can be a little bit daunting on that run into turn 1, especially with some of those bumps. Grass runoff as well on the exit. It's always a bit chaotic, it's always a bit dramatic, but it's always a bit fantastic.
Guess what? Fantastic is an understatement when it comes to this BMW Sim GT Cup. 2 races done, plenty to go. Make sure you stay involved across the BMW social media. maybe jump into the BMW Sim Racing Discord, RaceSpot.WTF/BMW Sim Racing. Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, usually the eyes focus in Brazelton, Georgia at the end of the year, but it's hosted round 2 of this BMW Sim GT Cup, and what a race it was. On behalf, though, of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for my co-commentator Lewis McLeod, my name has been Arjuna Kankipati. We'll see you at the end of March from the Sebring International Raceway. For now, though, so long and goodbye. Congratulations, Reina Talvar and Phil Dinez, winners here in Road Atlanta.